According to Wikipedia, Serial Experiments Lain is a Japanese anime television series created and co-produced by Ueda here. Maybe that's his name. Written by Shikai Konaka. We know that guy. People make YouTube videos about that guy. And directed by Nakamura. Animated by Triangle Staff and featuring original character designs by Mr. Abe. My goodness. This series was broadcasted for 13 episodes on TV Tokyo and its affiliates from July to September of 1998. Can you believe it? The series follows Lane Awakara. I can say all these when I'm not recording. An adolescent girl in suburban Japan and her relation to the Wired, a global communications network similar to the internet. Lane features surreal and avant-garde imagery and explores philosophical topics such as reality, identity, and communication. The series incorporates creative influences from computer history, cyberpunk, and conspiracy theories. Critics and fans have praised Lain for its originality, visuals, atmosphere, themes, and its dark depiction of a world fraught with paranoia, social alienation, and the reliance on technology, and our reliance on technology, considered insightful of 21st century life. It received an excellence prize at the Japan Media Arts Festival in 1998. That's the year it came out. Can you figure that out? And today we are joined with, 4 Zoomers. That might be what this video is going to be titled. React to Serial Experiments Lain. I'm here. EliteAri is here. Don't speak, EliteAri.
Really is zooming.
Jockey Bacon. Jockey Bacon better shut up. And it's Mia. My goodness, we're all here. Now, everybody's not going to speak until I tell them to speak. And what everybody's going to do for this little exercise, and I'm going to go last. EliteAri's going to go first. Jockey Bacon's going to... Do I want to do it in that order? Jockey Bacon's going to go second, and Mia's going to go third, and everybody's going to say in basically like a paragraph, 2 sentences or less or so, what they thought about the show, if they liked the show, and perhaps what the show is about. But don't say too much, okay? Everybody's going to be brief, and don't react to what EliteAri says, Jockey Bacon. You got to have your own little sentence, all right? And don't shit on him. So, EliteAri, you're going to go first. My goodness. Because Serial Experiments Lain, everybody. Bit of a confusing show to some. Some people are like, well, that was a little wacky. Most people, when they talk about it, all they say is, man, it like predicted the future. This is crazy. So, EliteAri, what do you think?
Okay. So what am I going to... I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to give...
And your personal history with the show, EliteAri.
Okay.
I know you watched like 3 episodes.
Yeah, number 1. Okay. Personal history. I watched back in 2021, I think. I think I watched the first 3 episodes. I was falling asleep watching them purely... Well, no, it was completely independent of you, I think. But I was falling asleep watching them, not because it was boring, because it was like I was watching it at like 5 a.m. and I was really tired when I was watching it. So I don't know, I never finished it, and here we are watching it again. My overall thoughts on this show is I really, really love the vibe of this show. I think it's an interesting vibe. I'm not going to say too much, I guess. We can talk more about it. I think the vibe of it, or the mood, or the tone, or whatever, is the entire appeal of it for me. Beyond that, there is very little that I like about this. I found it pretty boring to watch, very hard to get through, but I really like the vibe, and I think the vibe carries it a lot to overall be like a positive. Like, I enjoyed watching this purely because of the vibe. Now, what happened in the show, I have absolutely no idea. If I were to guess, it'd be like... There's a girl and she's like a AI and she's like in like the plane between 2 worlds and she becomes a god or something. But I don't know. But that's it.
My goodness. Now, Jockey Bacon, EliteAri just stole your whole impression of the show, I think. So go ahead and say something interesting.
So Serial Experiments Lain, what a crazy, wild, wacky experience, Lain. That was surreal. Okay, so what do I actually feel about it?
Bacon finished this show like 20 minutes ago, by the way.
Yeah. So I, during the pandemic, was trying to create like a mood, like, like what we do here. We say, oh, we're going to watch something, then we're going to come and discuss it together. But I did with my mates that were not online, which might be something of a predictive power or linked to this somehow, the fact that we are online people talking to each other about this online, something the wide dimension. Yeah, I remember finding on YouTube, watching the dub for like 4 episodes, but my other mates finished it, but like we weren't like super enthusiastic about it at the time. So I only watched the first 4 episodes and kind of just chilled with it, I guess. And then I watched it all basically in the last 3 hours. Now, if someone's saying, "How do you watch 13 episodes in 3 hours?" I wanted the true Zoomer experience, folks. So I watched on 2x speed.
Oh my god.
There you go. So the only anime I'll ever do the disservice of doing that. Yeah.
That's just because we had a deadline, right?
It's also because I found it quite boring. But yeah, sure, let's do that. Yeah, because we had a deadline. I wouldn't have finished it if we didn't have a deadline. But yeah.
Mia has just angrily said in our group chat, "What?" Because Mia stayed up very late to finish the show, probably with respect and dignity, whereas Jockey Bacon is just...
Yeah, I did feel pretty bad because I was like trying to watch it yesterday, but I just kept on getting quote unquote distracted by Mr. Beast giving away £500,000 to someone who could beat Neymar or something like that.
Mr. Beast?
Mr.
Quality
Beast?
entertainment.
That is quality entertainment. So
Mr. Beast is your reason?
No, not only Mr. Beast. Plenty of other reasons. But yeah. I think actually it was pretty good on 2x speed, actually. I think that's the optimal way of viewing it. IMO. So 9 out of 10.
That's crazy. That means Jockey Bacon definitely watched the dub. EliteAri, did you watch the dub or the sub?
I did watch the dub on YouTube. So
I thought so.
Yeah, no
crazy. I actually watched the sub.
Don't worry, everybody. You know, we got idiots everywhere, but don't worry. The great It's Mia is going to bring us back. Mia's going to say, "I watched the sub."
I did watch the sub.
Oh, what a... you know, feels good to be alive. But anyway, Mia, it's your turn. Bacon.
I slept 5 hours tonight because I watched this shit and I made sure to rewatch one of the episodes because I felt like I didn't really take this in well enough.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna go back and watch one more again. That being said, when we talked about watching Lane and talking about it, I think I said, yeah, I have a basic understanding of the premise. Now that I have watched Lane, I don't think I understand it all. I have no idea what I watched. I have some reads on vibes and ideas that I think it was trying to explore, but I have no clue what actually happened, especially by the end.
I have a question. Sure. And so you don't seem to understand.
I don't seem to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm getting from this. And is it a shame that I don't seem like I'm an honest man for
You're not
2x speed?
Because you did it. Yes, exactly.
Because you watched the dub, not because of the 2x speed. If you watched the sub 2x speed, I would be very impressed.
I watched the sub 2x speed. I watched the sub 2x speed.
How did you do that? I don't believe this. Yeah, how did you read the subtitle?
I guess
there's a handy button called the back key. Well, I couldn't read it because there's so little dialogue.
It's going to take longer than it would have on normal speed if you're rewinding.
There was only a couple of episodes where I couldn't keep up with the reading. So
that's crazy.
My issue was actually
on 1x speed when I'm watching sub shit.
My issue was that when the text came up on screen, it didn't have like a bumpy animation with like a black outline and bright colors, you know, saying today Lane, I'm gonna give $10,000 to my friend who doesn't like me. There you go. That's what I was saying.
That was a Mr. Beast reference. I caught that about halfway through it.
There you go.
This is very funny. This is when I wish we had a much wider audience of people that would come and invested in Serial Experiments Lain, because they would be giving you guys a what for. You know, it would be, but because it's just our audience, they're just going to think this is funny.
Yeah, we've only received one Mushoku Tensei fan. You know,
that is true. The great Mr. Gems did edit a great Mushoku Tensei compilation where I owned EliteAri at every turn. Brought up dogs a lot. Who knew? Now, it's my turn, Jockey Bacon. Please be quiet. You know, this is like my fifth time watching Serial Experiments Lain. I did it in the last few years because it was on another media checklist. I've only been doing those for a few years. If you remember my great famous, Jockey Bacon, you remember this, my great famous Black Lagoon video, 500,000 views or something, no biggie. You know, at the very beginning of that video, for no reason at all, I just exposit my top 5 anime, and I believe it's Black Lagoon was number 1 at the time, crazy. Neon Genesis Evangelion number 2. Steins Gate, Cowboy Bebop, and then Serial Experiments Lain, I think, was 5. Or was it 4 and Cowboy Bebop was 5 or something? You know, we love Serial Experiments Lain here is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, this was peak 17-year-old Kyle. I've got really good taste.
That would have been
anime.
Perhaps 18. You know, I was pretty old, EliteAri. I mean, Jockey Bacon. First time I've done that, this fucking recording.
Yeah.
I watched Lain for the first time when I was younger than 17. I was in... Oh, maybe I was 17, probably 16. You know, I was a big Digibro fan. This was grade 12, you know, so I was real cool. And I started like 4 anime at once. I started Utena, I started Razafan, I started... What was the 4th one? Something else. And then I started Lain, and I decided to continue watching Lain because it was the shortest one, and then I could finish it. That's what I did, and I said, what's this show about? Silly nonsense? I think I watched the dub back then, too. So that's crazy. And then the last 2 times I would have watched subbed, I remember I did watch a full reaction series with Picture and Picture one time. This was way back in the day before reactions were cool. And then about a year or a year and a half ago, I watched it. And then I've watched it again. And, you know, at some point it dropped down to a 9. But, you know, after this most recent rewatch, you know, I put it back up to a 10. So, you know, I love Serial Experiments Lain. All the great Lain fans in the audience can rejoice. I'm here. Don't worry. I'll beat back the sacrilege that's happening here. Except EliteAri was totally right. I think the main draw of the show is absolutely like the direction, the vibe, the art, the sound effects especially are very like great. I think that was my main takeaway from this one. I feel like last time the story resonated with me for like the first time, and I remember having a moment where I thought that was really cool. But this time it was more so the vibes thing, and I sort of kind of remembered, I think, what I discovered the story was about last time. So yeah, I watched it a lot of times. This time we still love it. So I guess this is where we do a general... Did anybody hear something that they wanted to comment on in our great introductory sequences right there? Anybody got any questions? What are we doing, everybody? Somebody say something.
This anybody that's watching this, maybe watch it 2 times.
I was freaking out, Jockey Bacon.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, I can 2 times speed. Actually believe it.
Okay. One thing I will say, I think it is true, the vibes, but I think for people, the vibes kind of entail because it has that old anime aesthetic which people like. Even like with like say the audio mixing of some of the voice acting, you know, like when people are kind of down a hallway or off screen, like particularly like say the girl that was crying in like the first episode, they have like a certain weird tinny reverb on it, which gives this, you know, part of the feel. I think there's like the actual like the color palette and like the starkness of the shadows and lights and all the stuff. And I think it's also a show that feels deep. That's not to say whether or not it is or is not deep, but it feels like, oh my word, this is really smart. Which I think is like one of those. It kind of gives it a leg up in the sense that it's like, oh yeah, this is like aesthetic, like kind of big brain, talks about big ideas.
It does get talked about a lot in like 10 with like Ava or whatever, where it's like, man, I don't know what I just watched, but that was pretty cool, brother. And then you got a little thumbs up emoji. And also Ava also has a lot of weird aesthetic flares and stuff like that. Though, if you there famously in an interview, the writer of this said, "I haven't even seen Shitty Evangelion, so stop comparing my series to it," which is
that's
pretty
hilarious.
Yeah.
Well,
and then he said,
the director actually died in 2013 at the age of 58.
Yeah, I think the writer is dead too, if I remember.
Oh my god.
Okay, so it's created by Ueda.
I mean, it was kind of old, so you know.
I'm just trying.
Maybe the writer dude isn't dead. I don't know.
Well, his last anime he was involved in was Danganronpa, sorry.
Yeah.
He was. Oh, he did. He was music producer on Ogre Proxy, Hellsing.
Yeah, I know the writer also did Technolize, which is like a show people compare to this a lot too. But it's more depressing.
His only original story like writing was Lain, actually, which is quite interesting.
Well, in anime at least.
Well, yeah.
There was something.
Don't see anything else.
There was something in the Digiro videos about Lain. He talks about how he used to write like Lovecraft fan fiction or something that was very popular or something. I didn't look into it.
Okay, the writer's still alive. So there's the main.
My goodness, still breathing.
So there's the creator, there's the director. The director's dead.
The studio is also dead.
Triangle stuff, huh?
In like 2002 or something, they folded or something. I was looking at all the Wikipedia pages.
Okay, yeah. So they worked on a lot of Helsing. They kind of this is like an old school version. Well, actually, the Egg Year. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm looking at Devil Lady. What the heck is that? Oh, it looks like Devil Man.
Lady, I think. Yeah, one of those adaptations.
Oh my word, yeah. I also started reading that recently, finally.
Devil Man or Devil Man Lady?
No, Devil Man. It's just Devil Lady.
Crazy.
Okay, and then Mononoke,
Are you going to listen to me and EliteAri
the...
talk about it for 3 hours after you finish it?
I'll watch your video.
Well, I got 2 videos on it, you know.
How do you say? What's that one you like? Razafan? How do you spell that?
Razafan. R-A-H capital Z-E.
Yeah. Okay.
E-O.
So this guy worked on Razafan.
Yeah, I saw that on there too. The
Okay, cool.
Razafan, you know, everybody's favorite Evangelion clone. Anyway, I guess we can move into a few areas. I have for my notes mostly. I have.
Here we go, guys. There's a video game made of it in 2025.
Oh my god!
April 30th, 2025. Of Serial Experiments Lain.
Crazy.
There is like a supposed sequel series or something that like gets brought up constantly, like it's a phantom thing that like Half-Life 3 or something that's supposedly happening but has never happened. So there is also a PS1 game that came out, I think later in the year after the anime stopped.
Yes.
Or finished.
I always thought that the game came first.
Yeah.
I guess I was misinformed.
No, there's a PS1 game from '98. Let me. I'm googling.
No, I'm reading it.
Oh no, it came out just after.
Yeah. So yes.
I don't know why the video game was 2025. Was it just released on?
No, there's like another thing or something happening. There was like I feel like there was like a lot of tweets about it a few months ago. I don't remember. I was like, I'll look into it when I watch Lain again with my favorite friends, and here we are, and I didn't do it. So can you believe it? Generally, so my notes are they sort of are under thematic titles, and there's some miscellaneous ones at the end. I have a list of cool audio-visual thingies, where I just wrote down a bunch of things that sounded really cool and looked really cool. I don't know if we want to go through that. It's got power lines and the shadows and the green tints and live action footage and Lain's character design and the sound effects and repeated animations of the crosswork at every episode and the lights and the text splashes and the sounds on the train and the sketchy people and the noises of Siberia come in and out with the drug scene. It's crazy. Science cuttings, chalkboard sound effects, very off-putting and strangely pleasant experience. We love the ambient. And then I also had written down here a pre-hypothesis before I rewatched it of what I remembered thinking Lain was about, where I said Serial Experiments Lain is about how the internet is just another layer of our connectedness and possible mass unconsciousness. Dual personalities are to show that people are multifaceted, ? Lain is a god, ? So, you know, I had it all figured out. And my last general note here is just about the opening and the ED. The opening was definitely on my top 30 openings list. The acoustic version of the song by Boa was on my top 50 songs of all time. The best verse they cut out of the opening of this version they used for the show, so that's pretty embarrassing, you know. The I can't even remember what it says because we're recording right now, so how am I expected to remember these? It's a shame you seem to not as lying kind, something like that. The ED is very, very cool too, but doesn't get talked about as much. So anybody got any comments on finally seeing this famous song in its context? I'm sure everybody's heard it except EliteAri, who's going to say he's never heard it in his life.
You know, it's a famous TikTok song, by the way, so I did know it from TikTok.
That's true. That is true. I
have to say, yeah, it was I actually do have a serious thought on this opening, which is that I didn't watch it because it's not in the version that I watched on YouTube. They've like cut it out, so it's only 20 minutes of runtime. So I watched it after like episode 3. I was like, oh, there's like no opening. Let me quickly go watch the opening. So I watched it then. I think the opening is like pretty integral to the show. Like I think it makes the show a lot better. Because to me it gives a very strong impression. Well, I have no idea what the takeaway from the show is at all, but the opening is a very, very depressing opening to me. like it makes it feel like Lain is incredibly isolated and alone, and there's like no one who understands her. And I'm like, man, this is a good vibe. I love a very strong vibe, I think. And the opening really, if I was watching the show and every episode kind of opened with that, I'd be like, oh, I'm set. I have like a certain mood that I'm being set for the show. But I didn't have that at all when I was watching it, so it was kind of interesting. But
it does.
Yeah.
And it is always the first thing you see, I think, in every episode. I think in one of the episodes they do play with it too, where there's more of a monologue from the crazy voice that says present day, present time. Though I could be misremembering.
Present day, present time.
Do the laugh, Bacon. Don't pussy out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that part.
Me just did it. You're embarrassing.
That was just a sincere laugh at the fact that he wouldn't do it.
It kind of sounded like it. It was pretty good. But true, makes the show better. EliteAri says, I'm not going to argue with them.
I was going to say the same thing. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, me, you go. I've been yapping.
I was going to say, besides just the actual, I guess, the song part of the opening too, the vibe of that first part there where you have the really weird voiceover, and then like the flickering with Lain kind of reflected in the screen. I feel like that sets the vibe really well. So not having that kind of, I don't know, it made me like uncomfortable the first time I watched it. I felt like that was kind of critical to the experience.
It kind of breaks the fourth wall, doesn't it? And it's revealed to you over the course of the series. It's like, oh, like Lain is also only on our computers. Or, I mean, I know some TVs back, or even your TV screen, like Lain doesn't actually exist in the real world. So there's like an interesting
meta sort of added.
Yeah, in it. I think also to build on Ari's point about like the fact that early on there's such a lack of any sort of OST music. That the OP filling in that gives you has a lot of influence over the feeling that you get. Later on, you do have some interesting music choices, but like definitely early on, it is integral. And I feel like with these kind of vibe, melancholic, self-reflective anime, having a strong OP or ED actually helps because there's so little OST to tie your feelings and memories to that, like the real estate of your memory music, like linkage, if you will. Like every time that song plays, you'll be thinking of it, and it just brings it right back. Another great example is Sunny Boy. I know none of you guys have watched it, though. Carl will probably watch it and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's such a vibe. I like the vibe." But basically, the ED is the same every single time.
What EliteAri said. I don't know why you make it fun of me.
Eventually that song becomes just like linked, and every single time it randomly comes up, you just can't not feel what you're feeling when watching Sunny Boy, basically. So, Sunny Boy is very similar to Lain, and it's like it's very a vibe show. It's kind of big brain, but you don't really get most of it. But you're glad you watched anyway,
But only if you watch it in 1x speed, Now, just quickly on the OP thing, also episode 13 does start with like it looks like the opening sort of visual where Lain is like talks about how she's confused about what's happening and stuff like that. So, you should always watch the sub, because the sub always has the opening, We got EliteAri there.
Well, it's more just like it probably got removed because it didn't want to get copyrighted on YouTube.
Yes, I know, Jockey Bacon. That was the joke. Now, the ED's pretty cool too, guys. That voice, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of wacky. Why is Lain naked? Because she's in Ys and stuff. It makes sense, okay? We all understand. I want to bring up because EliteAri did have an interesting take. I expected EliteAri to be more positive. I definitely expected Jockey Bacon to be like, I don't care about this. What the fuck's going on? Now, it was interesting because Bacon and EliteAri had seen it before, and they'd both come away with positive, in my recollection, though it doesn't seem like Jockey Bacon was, positive experiences initially. Because whenever I'd floated this idea to Ari, he was always excited for it a little bit. So it was interesting that Ari is like, this fucking shitty story was in the way and the vibes were okay. So, EliteAri, I want to hear more about this. You're not limited anymore. I remember you cut yourself off a little bit before we get into my silly thematic notes. Why don't you expand on that, punk?
Yeah, so I guess this story, going into it, I had this thing. I guess we can talk about how intelligent the story is first, which is that I was very cautious going into this, that it's from 1998 or whatever, like a long time ago. It's basically like talking about the internet and technology and stuff. And I was like, oh no, are we going to do a thing where, like, I'm waiting for this show to get to the point where it's going to say something really dumb. Where it's going to say something about how the internet works, or it's going to like make some meta commentary that's like going to fall flat. I don't think that ever happened. Which I was kind of like dreading the whole time. Like, oh no, it's going to prove that it's like a really dumb show, but it never got to that point. So that's like a good positive thing about it, the story-wise, I guess. However, this show does a lot of, it does something that I always hate in everything, which is that it, there'll be times where someone is giving a speech, whether it be God or Lain or like some character, about the philosophy of the world or technology or the internet. And I'm like, I don't care about this at all. If I wanted like genuine insight about something, I would go and read it, or like I would like I would seek it out personally. Like I'm not watching this show so that I could get like any insight philosophically. So whenever it happens, it's either like too, maybe it could be a dub thing as well. That's a very possibility here. But it's like too like lyrical or like poetic in the way it's saying things, and I'm like, I can't pass this when I'm watching this, and I'd have to like make notes on what it's saying, and none of it really lands for me, and like I don't have any interest in that. So whenever that would happen in the show, and it would comment like directly on the connection between the wired and the real world and your identity and all of that, that would always fall flat for me. So I guess that's the first thing to say story wise, but yeah.
Yeah, the philosophizing stuff is interesting because I feel like at least most of the time to be more interesting, and I think EliteAri would agree with this because I don't know, my brain just goes to Attack on Titan because I'm poisoned. But like, it's different here because it is like more like a grander layer of philosophizing or whatever. Not in that it's good, but just like it's a general thing about like what are humans rather than like, oh, the cycle of hatred or something. Whereas it feels more, I guess that probably does it feel more plot relevant? Like do you think there's a difference there, EliteAri, or are you also over like the philosophizing of cycle of hatred shit?
No, I think what you're saying is probably right, which is that in this case, it feels like the show is like it's trying to say something to you. Even though I understand like Attack on Titan is also trying to say something to you through the cycle of violence, but I feel like that is like more directly the characters like thinking about it. I feel like in this, even if Lain is kind of thinking about this stuff, I also feel like she's not really at all, and it like doesn't come across the same way as like someone like Eren thinking about this stuff. It feels like, oh, they're like speaking to the audience directly here, like explicitly at length, and it's not like not in a similar way to like something like Attack on Titan where it's like it feels like it's more in story.
It feels like you can see the hand of the author when you're doing it. You're like, this feels more like they're saying it to me, and it doesn't feel as more effortlessly woven into the story. I think it's also because it's a shorter story and it's so confusing. Like it doesn't give you a ton of bedrock to like lay your theories on. So when they kind of dump it all at you at once. It's like, hold up, either I pause this and try and sit on it to understand it, or like if you're reading in a book or manga, it's easy to pause and like reread or recontemplate. But in when it's going at its own pace, you don't really want to be pausing or stopping, and then it gets confusing. But like when it's an Attack on Titan, it's like, oh, you're already hooked on multiple elements on the mystery, but then it gives you a little bit, it sparses out the details more. So when then like you get like Erwin's speech when he's saying, oh, we gotta do it for our dead comrades in the pile of bodies or whatever, it feels more relevant because you've already seen Erwin like for the last however many seasons build up to that moment, and you can be like, oh, it's clarifying for myself what it is. This is similar, but it kind of dumps it on you in so much, but also in a vague way. I think for some smaller characters it does work, like for like the mask dudes, the agents. I was like, oh, okay, I think I get what they're doing.
Knights.
Yeah. Were they okay?
Well, no,
I didn't get it. They
Knights.
weren't the knights in the end. They were the. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they thought they were fighting the knights, but their leader was actually with. Well, he wasn't with the knights, but he was with the god controlling the knights.
Yeah.
You got it all figured out. It makes sense. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. And then they were electricians at the end.
True.
Yes, true.
Their best
that was good. They had the Ava alternative world thing here. Now this is a very Ava thing because Ava does do this in parts. It's not as much, I don't think, as Lain does it, where it will start it's not really philosophizing at you because it is always tied into like a character in Ava, where it'll be like a character explaining why they did this thing, and they try to tie it into philosophy with this like weird thing. Like Gendo will do a monologue at the end. I don't know. I don't want to spoil Mia's here. I wrote down a few
very
things.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the philosophizing is. I think there's a difference because in Lain they're also tying it into like the fake science conspiracy stuff, which I think you're either gonna find interesting or not. But it is all. There's also part of it. Like a lot of the time, whenever there's like a lot of voices or a lot of people saying stuff, Lain will do this a few times. It's always like it feels very like real, like it's a bunch of people saying like silly stuff, and then like at the end it comes back to but who's that cute Lain girl or whatever. It'll be like, did you hear that she killed us and did you hear that this is a conspiracy? And they'll all be saying some weird stuff. So I felt like a lot of the time the philosophizing did have an element of that where it's like, I guess it's an added element of confusion of like, I don't know if the person saying this is supposed to be like the character is supposed to be representing the truth here, or it is just their like misguided, like they're on like a soapbox thinking they figured everything out type thing. But you have to be reading in, you have to already be invested to care about any of that. I guess it also depends on your approach, because I know a lot of the time if you're like rewatching Lain, like the game is almost, well, I'm gonna try and figure it out, bro. So you're paying attention to these things and you're actually interested in things like that. I do think in the end, it is like, and this might be a general problem with like philosophy, is that it's all like about being sad and being alone. In the end, like it's all just like a larger metaphor for that kind of. And so if you distill it down, it's kind of simple and it's kind of easy to understand. And I think that does help it in some sense. But I guess it depends like what your reading of the plot is, obviously.
Yeah, I think, and I've talked about this a fair few times with people where it's like lots of people will be like, oh, it's not, people will say like something's deep, you know. I guess we've talked about this for loads, but just because something has a quality doesn't make it like a good thing or a bad thing. But lots of people will like say, oh, it's deep, therefore it's good. But it's more like you want, I think for most people, you need the aesthetic layers or like things you like to get you hooked into the story. And then I find it very rarely that I love something that purely for their thematic reasons. Like there has to be other things to get me through the door first to then be like, yes, I want to spend more time thinking about this. And Lain, I think, you know, actually for what it's worth, like, I mean, it's stuck around in like the cultural consciousness, mostly probably because of the vibes, as we were talking earlier. And it wants to get you through the door with the vibes. I guess just for me, like, you know, I mean, I watched on 2 times speed, but I feel like I actually got a decent amount. But it did definitely feel like it was waxing philosophically at certain points. And then at some points it gets like the pseudoscience in here, where it's like, here's this guy, like the scientist after Truman and all this stuff that they've then figured out this thing. And then it's got this like almost Jungian, like humans also got this like this collective subconscious. And stuff like that. And
I've seen Berserk, bro. I know about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So
I think you keep going, Megan.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, I thought it was interesting, but also a bit obtuse. So
I mean, yeah, I think one of the core appeals of the show is that it's like confusing. That's like one of because the thing people say is, "Whoa, what was that?" And like, man, it predicted the future, which is interesting because it is sort of a point I want to get into. Because it's probably not really true. Because EliteAri brought up that he was waiting for it to say something silly about the internet, but it didn't. And it's funny because the reading of Lain a lot of the time is the exact opposite of like everything it said was genius, bro. It knew that people were going to be trolling, and it knew that like VR stuff was going to be popular, and it knew that, you know, conspiracies and stuff, and it knew, I can't remember the other examples, but that is like, if you go to Lain, every Lain video will open with like, what a prophetic show, incredible, you know, philosophy in this show, etc., etc. And then they will like bumble around and not say a lot. I watched a bunch of Lain videos in like the last 2 hours. And then it'll be like what was really going on, and then it'll sort of like break down the plot.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the issue
and it's
with the prophecies is that prophecies are most accurate when they are not detailed. They don't make a lot of claims. So there's a vibe, and there's a couple of things where it's like, yeah, like the real world is real, and everybody's connected on the internet, and it's like this feeling. But once you actually dig down into what it's saying, it's like Lain is not really talking about our future. I don't.
And it's
think
not
so.
really the
In the
internet. Like
details.
every video will like try and say that like, man, it's literally the internet, and like they thought that like back in 1998, nobody knew that the internet and the real world would be like intertwined like it is today. Like you can go on Facebook, bro, and set up a party and then go to the party, or you can do like a Skype call. Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's not really like it is a lot of like TVs, and like literally the last shot of the show is like Lain disappearing, and the humming sound that you've been hearing the whole show is like in the wires, and it's like, oh, Lain is the humming sound in the wires that has been like serenading you the whole show, and she like exists in like electricity more so than the internet.
Yeah, and then she can wipe your memories, and then it goes into details on how like the back end worked and how this was all done by scientists, because they have this theory that humans got all this consciousness together, and then like, you know, because we're approaching 8 billion people, which we do now.
The Earth has a consciousness, bro. You know.
Yeah, because we're like the same as like, and I
there
mean,
was an alien.
Yeah, but like
I think that was my favorite part when the Roswell alien opened her door.
True.
Oh, that's another like iconic Lain scene. That gets posted everywhere.
Yeah.
And another one, Lain. Also, the alien is like hinted at, like episode 3, and I wrote that down. I was like, oh, cool. Because there's like in one of the monologues where like a million people are saying things. It's Lain is like in the Wired. One of them is like, there was a little boy that showed up and he had like the green and the red thing on, and it freaked me out. And I was like, oh, it's the alien. But then it was also Lain at the end. So is Lain the alien? Is that what happened? What's going on here? Crazy.
Well, yeah, I think also another cool thing technologically wise was how they did touch screens, which is like completely different. They're like a separate pad which you could have your stylus on. I was like, oh, this is like what they thought. Which is actually not like, I don't know if like touch screens were like really a thought back then. I wasn't around.
I probably was. I think it's just kind of an interesting design. I don't feel like they were thinking that's how things would be.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like it's
cool,
kind of a quirky look.
Yeah. At the same time, I'm looking at them just like, look at all this real estate that isn't covered by buttons on this phone. You know, clearly they need to rethink the design.
We're gonna bring Mia into this discussion, okay? Because he's been a little quiet. So, Mia, it sounded like most of all you were a little confused. Is that like your takeaway?
Kind of. The philosophizing that we were talking about. So I kind of felt the same way, where I wasn't really getting much out of those scenes besides obviously the vibe. And I think a lot of it to me had to do with the fact that it was very much based on this made up technology that I felt like they didn't really want you to fully understand.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to make commentary around how this technology works, but they won't really tell you how it works. So I feel like I'm not really getting much out of it, because very clearly it is distinctly different from the internet. It is not meant to be a one-to-one. This is the internet, but we call it something different. It is something at its core that is different functionally. I think I didn't understand it well enough to really get much out of this is how it works with society, because I don't know how it works in general.
I think it is just supposed to be the internet, and like Navi is supposed to be computer. I just think there's like a bunch of like sci-fi elements that they add to it. Like if you do this drug chip, you can like your consciousness will fully be in the Wired or something. Like I think all of that stuff is supposed to be like, I think the Wired is supposed to be the internet plus some other things.
But it definitely is, but those other things are like fundamentally change what it is, because the fact obviously that it can influence reality due to whatever, like the barrier between the two getting weaker and disappearing. That makes it very, very different. Obviously that's meant to be like, it's still comparable to the internet in terms of like how it integrates with reality and how it can't really be separated anymore. It's very much they kind of are one and the same now, but the abilities that Lain is able to tap into because of that. I feel like they didn't really give a solid mechanical reason, like this is how it works, and I felt like that made the philosophizing difficult to me because I felt like that we're talking about a logical system that I really don't understand at all.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it
definitely don't
becomes
think it's supposed to be
fantastical.
logical.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously that's the point is that you're not supposed to really understand it very well, but I felt like that's kind of
Well, I don't know if
truthful
that's the
too.
point. I think it's just like it's like magic in a story or something, or it's like
Yeah.
like you don't really understand the magic in Harry Potter, but everybody just like kind of understands it, even though
Yeah,
it's
but it has
illogical.
rules. You know, you feel like
Yeah.
it kind of lays the groundwork for what's possible in that system, and then you can kind of um, make your comparisons to reality from there. I felt like I never had a good enough understanding of the kind of rules that we're playing under during Lane, so I didn't really feel like I could make comparisons the same way.
Yeah, this is like definitely the first time through common experience, and there
Mhm.
isn't really that much of an explanation. The explanation that I would give is like, well, the power sort of is like if people believe that Lane is this, then she can manifest this because of like collective unconscious or whatever. Um, and so like when everybody is like worshiping Lane, therefore Lane appeared in the sky, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well,
Well,
there you go.
yeah, that's interesting. I think it's one of those things where they don't fill in the details. Like it's similar with how you do world building. Like once you give an answer, it instantly makes everything feel smaller because
Yeah, I don't
there's
think it
only
would be
one
better if it
possibility.
answered these questions
Like
either.
yeah, it's like I feel like if you're
I
writing,
feel
if like when you're writing this, the writers probably didn't have an answer, but they just left it ambiguous, and then it allows people to make their own theories. It's kind of like I don't know, like how much you believe on the Arno stuff of using it, the Christian imagery, but it's like people will run with that stuff whether or not Arno meant or not because people people don't care. I mean, it's
I
similar
mean, but
with
there's
like
not really any Christian stuff in Ava besides like names and like literally the cross imagery. Like it's not like
yeah, but people will
Gendo's
fill in the gaps.
revelation is
People
that
will fill in the
yes,
gaps
I know that
regardless. Like
people
people,
have done that.
it,
Yeah.
it, you
But
know,
I
like
feel like in Ava there is an explanation, and I kind of feel like in this there is kind of an explanation. Like if you like the show does want you to like it does
it
want you to
wants you to
follow the plot a
ponder it.
little bit.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know if that like the philosophizing it does, like the impression of it, but like the logistics of it, I think there is like a you can explain it. Like if you break it down, it is very obtuse, obviously, and very confusing in a lot of ways. But I think like you do get it eventually, where it's like, oh, and then this is happening, and then the sister does this, and like, oh, it does like make sense on a plot board if you plot it out. It's just like hard to understand. And I do feel like that's the same in Ava. Like if you now this is kind of objectifying it, but if you go through Ava, you can be like, well, no, this isn't like Christian stuff outside of like the names and the references. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I guess
depends.
another example, like Wonder Egg Priority is actually another example I would give this. So people be like looking and be like, oh, look, they use different colored flowers in these points and it means different things because like different imagery will come up. I don't know Ari, if you feel like that or remember, but like Wonder Egg Priority is a similar thing like this. I would say maybe an example of something more explicit, but you do have to dig into was actually when Mira and I read Planet S. Like if Planet S was exactly like how it was when in the anime version, like it does a lot of like pretty dense dialogue, but it does tell you exactly what it is. But you do have to read it like a couple times to get it. Or it took me a couple times. Um,
Yeah.
so like you, so there can be dense stuff. I'm not saying that like Lane doesn't have like a message it wants to give. It clearly does. It's not just like saying, "Oh, here's a bunch of words that make us sound smart." I think it's more like not everything has to be linked together. They just thought, "Oh, this could kind of be this thing," but they're not being super explicit about it, and they're going to allow you to fill in the gaps. Um,
I'm sort of separating like the point and the plot here of like the plot kind of has a like a trajectory, not really the point. Obviously the point is a little open-ended and stuff like that. I feel like definitely if we put it on a graph of like confusing or like straightforward plot to confusing plot, it's definitely on about as extreme of confusing plot as you can get. But like makes sense, like I don't know, not even in world. There's a different phrase, but it isn't like entirely to the side in that category, I guess. But also I don't really care about that stuff in the show. So true, I guess. I don't know.
Wait, I have one thing I want to
Generally,
say now that I'm thinking about it.
go ahead, Illyri.
I've seen this. I've seen Ava. I've seen Utena. There's a few things like this, and I don't remember Ava well enough, but I know Utena is the case. Where in Utena, there's like a school. The setting is a school. But they're not actually at school. The school doesn't mean anything. I guess the school means something. It doesn't mean it's a school. It just looks like a school or whatever. I think similarly in Lain, the thing is going on here where it's like completely, it's an abstraction where it's like, yeah, she's in a world, and the world it's like they make this distinction between the real world and the wired. But there is no real world and there is no wired. We're just taking place. This story takes place like in an abstraction of the real world and the wired. Where it's like that. I don't like, just because we see Lain in a house doesn't mean that that's her house or it is a house at all. And like kind of is, everything is like symbolic in this, or everything is like, nothing is literal and it's all abstract and it's weird. That's the way I read this. Like, I don't think that like the world that they're in, I think it's like in a similar way to where it's like, you said that Lain appears in the sky because they all like think about Lain or whatever. I think it's like in a similar way where it's like if you have, I don't even know how to explain this, but like let's say you have like a rectangular prism or something, like a 3D shape, and then you like project it to like a 2D plane. It's like a square or a rectangle or something. I feel like we're watching the 2D plane of like the 3D world or something like that, where it's like we're seeing weird concepts that don't necessarily mean at all what they look like. I don't know. Something like that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
There's something else you always say this to. There's something else where you say this exactly too. And I disagree with it there, and I do disagree with it here too. Do you remember what it is? Because I don't.
Is it Ava? I have no idea.
No, it's something else where you're like, oh, it's Perfect Blue.
Oh yeah, true. That is
where we had the split with that, where I was like, no, it's obviously literally happening, Alita. Are you stupid? I do feel like that's the case here. Because I feel like it, and I try to write this down, but I somehow said the same thing twice when I tried to show that shows the difference. Where it's like, I think it is an abstracted representation of real stuff, not real stuff abstracted. So EliteAri would say that this isn't actually happening, that this is just like symbols operating, which is obviously every story, but like it's an added layer of like, EliteAri, what he said makes sense. I don't have to restate it. But I definitely don't agree. I don't think you're supposed to think these are like two fake worlds. I think you're just supposed to be like, this is a weird way to animate a real world or something, where the abstraction is almost interesting in and of itself, whereas it's not necessarily part of the point. I think it is more an aesthetic thing. I don't know.
I think I think it is to contrast the feelings. So like with like, for example, like it is purposeful in like how the sky is super white. Like it does feel like homogeneous.
Yeah.
Where like it does feel like a simulation where it's like there are lights down, like it's all like lit like a scene. Like it's got that film light, but then and you don't see any clouds, you don't see a blue sky until like the clouds do part and you see Lain through them. Like there are things like that where it does feel like it's not real.
There is like imagery in like the last episode that like of the dome in the city and stuff, where it is like it's supposed to like he should be bringing that up in his favor, but you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but there was one point I can't remember. It was later on where you had like there was dusk, and you could see like clouds in front of the sky, and that was like, okay, this is more like the real place now. But it is like this. I just feel like it is like almost
there is a fakeness to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's like part of the vibe. People say that about the Tokyo 3, right? In Ava. It's not New Tokyo. That's Akira, I think. I get them confused sometimes.
It does feel
it's
empty.
like you never see anything else in Tokyo 3. Like there's like one scene in like a petrol station or whatever. But other than that, it's just like the school, Nerve, and people on the train sometimes. And you never like get a bustling city street or something. And it's like, is this like fucking city fake or whatever? But it's just like part of the. It gives the like a feeling of isolation, which is definitely going on with Lain a little bit too.
It makes
so
everything feel lonely. Not lonely, lonely, empty. Like even when she's on the train and there's like tons of people are packed on the train. It's like no one's conversing with each other.
They all just look at her when she says something and then go back.
I do think it's interesting though that this was released in 98. Perfect Blue was released in 97. Like there is a run here of like these very like this end of the 90s. like Ava was from 95 to 96, you know, like
And then
there is a
end of Ava is 97.
yeah, exactly. There's like, and I mean, actually,
Uten is in there too.
Oh, interesting. Like there's like this kind of like, oh, let's get teenage girls to experience the world weirdly. I don't know. But
There's a Digibro video about this, about all the weird
and
Ava
Perfect
shows
Blue's
that
not
came out after Ava.
exactly.
No,
Perfect Blue's not like that. But Perfect Blue actually, I think, is closer to Serial Experiments Lain than it is to Ava.
Yeah.
Than Serial Experiments, because they are. It is that like not shoring of what's real, what's not. This kind of isolation feeling. Someone becoming something they don't want to. And yeah, there's a lot of that there, and I think it's interesting. It is like, because I feel like if I was watching anime at the time, I would get really bored because that almost feels like that's what came out at that time. Even though I know Cowboy Bebop was also coming out at that time, but it's like, man, it's like, do they not have another story to tell? Like, come on, guys.
Like Pokemon was on the other channel, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of stuff, but this is definitely like a wave of things.
Yes,
and it's interesting how this wave is so crystallized and remembered culturally.
Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of shows like Razafon is kind of like that, but not many people remember Razafon. I remember in the Digibro video I'm talking about, she brought up a million things where it was like there's this weird Batman spoof show that was kind of like an Ava clone and stuff like that. But I don't know. We kind of go through waves in anime, right? Where it's I feel like we kind of, and I didn't watch any of these shows, but Wonder Egg Priority is kind of like the early 2020s seemed like a weird, like Sunny Boy's like 2019, right?
Yeah, there's Sunny Boy and Wonder Egg came out just before, I think, as well. No, Sunny Boy
Wonder
was
Egg is 2021, I think.
Yeah, so I think Sunny Boy came out 2021 or 2022.
But like Devilman Crybaby into all these things is kind of like a wacky little abstraction phase we kind of went through. Like I would even throw like something like Heavenly Delusion is a little bit like that.
I think what makes at least Wonder Egg and Sunny Boy different is that they are OVAs, which is very uncommon. And I feel like when you do get an OVA, I mean, there was Moonrise recently, which was weird because it did get like it was like a more generic like fantasy thing, but often you only get 13 episodes, and I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, let me have a look. Sunny Boy. I mean, Sunny Boy is definitely like similar. Yeah, so 2021. There you go.
Oh my god, that was the same year.
Yeah. I mean, where it's not super. Yeah, I don't know exactly what to think about it.
It's just, I guess, waves happen, kinda.
Yeah, or it's just like linking up somehow.
Imagine forgetting a point. I would never do that. You know, I'm a genius. Never forget anything. While Bacon does that, does anybody have anything else on this situation? Or should we move into these little subheadings?
All I know is that this is what I imagine Ari wants the world to turn into, and he's like, "We all need to go into the VR. We need to be friends and get rid of our friends technology. Stop touching grass. Stop touching." I don't think there's a single blade of grass inside this anime.
I don't know, because maybe this show could either be like really speaking to me or really not speaking to me. I have no idea what it's saying. Because like to me, the ultimate expression of like I would be happy if everyone lived in a VR world if that meant that we could all like communicate better. But I don't know if that's what the show is saying at all, or if it's like the complete opposite. But no,
it's kind of the opposite, I think.
Definitely the opposite, I think.
Well, I don't know, because there is a sense it's like you can know fully everybody's thoughts, which like at some point I was like, I thought, well, that's interesting because it's like there is a complete degradation of privacy. Like when she finds out about Arisu's like fantasies towards the teacher, like, and then you know, but then she has the power. Like it feels like, oh, that's like the most invasive. You know, that's just pure invasive thoughts, and that's like, but like when you say like communicating, people know exactly what you feel. But like part of like that's like pure honesty. But then part of communicating is like there's almost like there's beauty in the obscurity. Like surely like this is the show to tell you that way it's being obscure. Whereas like you can't know exactly what someone is feeling. Like if a blind person has never seen a color, could you tweak stuff in their brain to make them see red? If that makes sense. Like actually experience the color red. Like, can you do that? And is there not like a beauty in trying to interpret what other people are saying and not being fully honest? I guess.
Yeah, it's like a push and pull thing.
Not to bring it back to the GOAT Yukimura, but he did make actually an exact tweet about this recently, and then people were like, "It's anti-AI." But let me try and find it for you guys, because I did thought it was quite interesting. Because
sorry, EliteAri, time to stop reading Vinland Saga. Unfortunate,
Yeah,
but
get Shrek.
There is definitely like because even Lane's like split personality thing is kind of like this, where it's like separating different versions of yourself, and then if you put them back together, and that's kind of like the wide and the real world colliding would be like, part of it is like, well, it seems to be a metaphor of like people act a certain way in real life, and then they get on the wide and they act a different way, which is sort of like anonymity and internet trolls and stuff. But like, if there's this normal seeming person who's also an internet troll, and then these two people, like the two worlds, are forced to like collide, would that create a new person if these two merged, or would it just create the same person because it's just two sides of one person? And like the fear in that is kind of what the dudes that are fighting the knights are fighting against.
Yeah, I want to build on that point, but I put in the tweet. So Yukimura says here, and I think Itzme has even responded to this. I think there's a lot to learn from manga, movies, novels. I am especially grateful for works of fiction that allow me to relive the feelings and lives of people other than myself. I like the ability to understand the feelings of others. Everyone only knows one life. They can't experience more than one. The great thing about creativity is that you can experience many things. And then he says, so in a sense, documentaries are better than creative works. That's the second tweet. Classic
True.
Humor.
I watched a lot of documentaries recently,
Yeah, I do think there's something there of like, there's a mix of like, are you sure? Like to get something in some people's head is not just to tell them, you have to communicate it to them. And I mean, like, actually, someone made a 1,000 subscriber video about this, but like wow. Having to actually experience stuff through life, through media is how like you get a little glimpse of what it is actually like in real life in a way, and then it kind of makes sense. So you can be told something, don't do this, but until you put your hand on the stove after your mother has told you not to, you don't really understand it. So there's something like that.
It's like, it's like you have to like do something to understand it, or like you have to make the mistake yourself, but you can sort of like make the mistake through a piece of media and be like, it's sort of like the descriptive prescriptive thing I talked about. Jockey Bacon says I use those words wrong, who cares about that?
Yeah.
But it's like even in well, now that we've seen Vinland Saga, I'm not going to be vengeful now. And it's like, oh, now I understand that, rather than having to kill Jockey Bacon's parents for him to kill my parents to understand the message,
Yeah.
So
have you read the most recent chapter, Carl?
Yes, I have.
There you go. Have you watched the Mir video on it?
I have not watched any Mir videos ever.
Oh, you might be making a similar point to...
Wait, maybe I watched the Villain's Finest one, though maybe not. I watched the first few minutes of one time, but every time I see Mir,
I'm gonna not take that personally.
You should be mad. You should get on with it. I still haven't watched your YouTube membership video, Bacon, either, about Grave of the Fireflies. Can you believe it?
I do actually believe it, because you told me exactly what the reasoning.
I'm just a bad person.
No, you're just giving me money, mate. So
I'm just a great person, Oh my goodness, thank you.
I do think it's actually kind of funny though, because when we go to talk about Vinland Saga, everything I say, like I've been saying for months and months and months in my videos, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's the best part. I'm just like,
well, do you want
here we go.
Away?
No, it's
goodness, I have to keep watching these videos down. I think every time I have like put it on my to-do list to watch the Mia video before we talk about the chapter. I just never do because I'm lazy. Will this time be the first time I do it? Maybe. This is a bit encouraging.
I'm going to bring us back to Carl's other point about the real and not real, like, are the two people the same? I think, I guess this is maybe the thing I could definitely see as being the most even though it doesn't exactly map on like the most predictive power of Lane, which is you have different personalities online and offline. Like you are like Jarky Bacon is different to Jack, and so on and so forth, right? Like there is, like, and what people see of you is also not true. Like even if you are live streaming your life, like an IRL stream or something like that, like that is performative or whatever people think they know of you is.
It's still not your internal monologue, right?
Well, in some,
different.
but that's also real life. But like what people see in real life is different because it's a different type of people. And so I don't think it's like, I think maybe the internet's the most extreme version because people tend to be more real or less filtered on the internet because there's less consequences. But even in real life, like depending on who you're around, you show like you only a certain version of yourself around them, and that's fine. And it's like, is there a true version of yourself? Well, you know, you're all those things, but like you're not. You can't all be all those things at the same time. But then different people, like you act differently around your grandparents to then how you act around your parents, which who you act differently around your friends to how you act differently around to someone, to a coworker or whatever, right?
The
Like,
great internet pals who you discuss anime and manga with. Thank you, Bacon, for the shout.
Exactly. So
there, because it does tie into the mass unconscious thing, where it's like, is like the trolley internet persona, like would that unconscious, collective unconscious, be more real, or like the people we pretend to be in real life, is that more real, or is like the online thing, our deep dark, are they our actual desires? And I think that the ending point usually has to be like, the internal one is usually like the more real one because it is a collection of both. And so it would be funny in a sense if like the two worlds collided and nothing happened because the two versions of everybody would just coalesce into the person they already are, and it would be like, oh, it's just like a dual thingy. But this is also manifested much, or demonstrated rather. Like there is like 3 lanes, it seems, in the show, and it seems like they are actually different people with different experiences. Though I did just watch a video that tried to argue the opposite, that like Lane is like lying when she's being like shy Lane, and she's like, if you pay attention to what she says to characters. Yeah, I didn't think that either. So that was silly, but there is like there's the shy Lane, there's the more determined like online Lane, and then there's like the evil Lane, who seemingly are all different people.
there is High Lane, there's the Stoner Lane, and there's Boss Queen, and then there's Autistic.
Same thing. I got the impression it was trying to say that, like, yeah, we see those 3, but that there's kind of just infinite. That's the vibe I got from it. That there's many lanes besides just them.
Yeah, this is like a larger thing about like what the title means, is that like the Lane as a character is just a metaphor for humanity, and the serial experiments Lane is like the experiment of humanity. Like we're actually all one collective consciousness, but we're all separated into these little things, and like the experiment is seeing what happens if we all separate. So it's like there's infinite lanes because there's like infinite potential people, I guess. Probably not actually, whatever. There's lots of them, and like it's like serial meaning like many, experiment meaning like what we're doing on Earth, and then Lane mean humanity. But yeah, in that sense, like there's like a bunch of lanes, and it's like, what if like if we start from the base of like all people are one person, like, and it's like trying to keep track of like what everybody's doing, and sort of being like, but I hate that like evil Lane over there for making fun of Erisu, or EliteAri probably knows Alice. My goodness,
Alice.
In the dub, that's it is funny that they just say Erisu, and the subtitles also say Erisu. Yeah. A little funny. But it's like, that is kind of an interesting like thought, where it's like, man, you don't want to keep track of like crazy like terrorist people or something. Like they're not part of you, but like this crazy like emotional terrorist is like another lane. And it's like, should we like take collective responsibility for all the actions of humanity and like try and do something about that? How does that work? And it's sort of like I guess a weird ethics question. But I don't know. There's like a bunch of like, I mean, it's like obtuse and abstract. There's a bunch of metaphors you can read and stuff like that. What do you say, Mira? I forgot how we started down this path.
Something about there being more than just 3 lanes.
True, that's right. Infinite humans or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be like the collective unconsciousness if you want to go like down like a. You've got like the evolutionary route where it's like, oh, we all had like a common ancestor, and from that we do have like a certain like proclivity naturally towards certain things. But then people like arrive in so many different ways, and I just don't think of like, there is maybe there's like a cultural thing, everybody's from their culture, but it's like also individuals. I don't know. I mean, I've not like it does feel very Jungian, but I don't know much about Jungian.
Rugby union sucks, Jockey Breaking. Why are you bringing it up? got him good. That's a me and Bacon joke. Nobody else understands that one.
Yeah.
My weird little subheadings. We'll attach the first one because we've kind of been talking about it. The first one is connection / loneliness / isolation. And then I have a bunch of things written down here that say power lines, crosswalks. These are all connective things. Human connection. Sex is brought up. Sex is a connection. EliteAri, you got to put the thing in, and you're kind of like connected in a weird.
They bring up
so one
sex.
thing
I
I
don't
think
remember that at all.
Well, the teacher stuff, and then there's whenever the weird god thing is standing over Lane and Eris, or Alice, or Erisu, she's like, wouldn't you want to be one with her? And then he's being like creepy and stuff, and it's like, oh, this is like an Ava when they talk about being one, and they mean sex, EliteAri.
Oh, okay.
I think
my reading at least.
I think its reading of God is interesting as well, where like God isn't, even though they use the term omnipotent later, it's more actually God is omnipresent and can't interfere.
Yeah,
which is like
he's not a creator or anything.
Yeah, it's a viewer. It is a spectator of the world, which is like an interesting thought. It's like,
but then Lane can.
But then she chooses not to, kind of. So it's like a,
yeah.
But this kind of goes into
the ending scene with Erisu is kind of
yeah. Well, it's like she can give up for the betterment, but she can't give up on her one friend, which is kind of the whole point of the Erisu stuff. Is like, well, she made one actual friend, and she still wants to sort of be connected to that one actual friend. Even if it is like weird, she is still in this like little girl form, and she's grown up and is that the teacher dude that she?
I was wondering that.
Wait, that woman at the end was Alice?
Oh man,
yes,
yeah. I thought that was Lane's sister. Oh my goodness.
It did kind of look like it with the hairstyle, but it definitely is Alice.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Lane's sister's pretty cool, bro. She's just
that doesn't look like the teacher. I'm looking back now. I don't know. Maybe
he is a teacher. He is definitely. I think they definitely say he is a teacher.
No, she is a teacher. But
yeah, she is too. But I'm pretty sure they say he's a teacher, and like they met it. Like that was the implication, at least that I read into it. He kind of has the same hairstyle at the front, but it could literally be she has a type, which is teachers that kind of look like that, and therefore this is not that. But also, I haven't seen this scene in like 2 weeks because I finished it a while ago. But I feel like there's an implication that he's a bit older than her too. Japan gets wacky sometimes. You're allowed to have a crush on the teacher when you're.
Maybe I'm like completely misremembering. I thought that she said that was her student, but maybe I'm just like completely misremembering because they did.
She was walking around with?
Yeah.
She said like, "Oh, were you?" The guy is her student.
Yeah.
No, she talks to Lane and says like, "Are you a student that I had once?"
No,
Lane recognizes her and she's trying to figure out.
No, it could be a dub thing. Maybe
like in the last scene.
Yeah. No, in the last scene.
They were walking together and they mentioned something about a teacher.
But you have some pride.
Yeah. Maybe I would be able to help you out, Ari, if I wasn't watching 2 times speed.
True.
Got him. But yes, what a wacky last scene.
Oh yeah, I guess okay. Yeah, she does say something to him like calling him a student, but I think it's just a play on the fact that that's her job. I don't know.
All right.
I hope it's not the same guy. I pray not.
Well, maybe it's the opposite, and he's one of her students, and she's the problematic one now. My goodness, how the tables have tumbled.
I actually don't remember. Was there any implication that the teacher was like actually like was it not just her having a thing for him? Yeah. Okay.
Well, there is a fantasy scene where he's like touching her, right? But it's like, is this like something she's recalling? Or is this like, is it a Chainsaw Man Part 2 Chapter 1 situation? Or is it just her fantasy type thing? I don't know. Anyway, I was listing off my great connective things here, where I got to sex.
I actually wanted to ask a question. Does anybody have an explanation for why there was always the traffic light and people like chatting? Like it kind of started on the same scene every single time.
Well, I think it was just like it is like the connective symbolism of like the crosswalk is
exactly
connective, and then people, and it's always like a different sort of monologue or whatever that's sort of like it'll usually be like, I remember there's one about parents, and I don't remember if there's because all the episodes have singular word titles. That might not even be true, but it's like a singular concept title where it's like it'll be about the concept. I just thought it was like a neat little like a repetitive thing. I don't know. I
definitely latched onto it too. Like you,
yeah.
well, both of you.
You know, after that great OP
that...
we watch every time, because you know we watch the real version.
Well, sometimes they didn't have the robot voiceover on it, I think, but
pretty sure it did most times, except
most of the time.
Last episode when they.
I feel like there might have been one.
Couple of last episodes, yeah. Like I think that was a cold open on 11 as well.
And there is one where it's a different color because it's usually green, I think, and then one it's a different color.
Yeah,
and I think there's also another episode where it comes back from like the eye catch in the middle and it does it again.
There's an eye catch.
Wacky things with it. It was pretty good. Yeah, it's.
Oh no, that was. I don't think it was an eye catch.
Oh,
I thought it was an eye catch, but I think it actually was reused later on. So I think it was. That wasn't actually one. So.
I'm just using eye catch to mean like the middle thing in the episode.
Yeah, there definitely are like middle cuts away for.
Yeah. But there's not an actual eye catch, I don't think.
Yeah, I've never seen one.
I don't remember because eye catch meaning like the visual. I can't remember what it looks like, so maybe there wasn't. So, but I do remember it repeating like halfway through the episode one time. I'm pretty sure. There's a bunch of lines about connection, etc., etc. There's like one of the first lines in the first episode is if you stay in a place like this, you can't connect. Because at the beginning, Lain is very disconnected from everything. She doesn't know what's happening at the school. She doesn't know about Chisa, who killed herself and stuff. And then like an email from a dead girl is like what starts her spiraling into connection. And then at the end, she's like disconnected again. So it's like a little mirroring thing. But with the experience of everything she's learned. I think that's most of my notes at the beginning here. I guess like she's disconnected and then it's revealed that she's like, now one of these words she is and one of them she isn't. Jarky Bacon, help me out here. Omnipotent and omnipresent. She's omnipresent, but she's not omnipotent.
Yes.
But if you're omnipresent, you're kind of like everywhere.
But then she does become omnipotent later. Or at least that's what God tells him. Kami-sama.
Because of her power and also because she can change the memories and stuff a bunch.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen Attack on Titan, you know. But yeah, so there's some sort of paralleling there. Also, there's like her family is not very connected and they feel very fake. Then it's kind of revealed that they are fake. Her sister is very different, distant. Her father and mother have separate beds. She gets killed at some point, right? Well, no, she kind of...
Like her soul gets killed, basically.
Something basically, and then she sees another version of herself and she kind of takes over, and then that version of herself is sort of like loopy the whole time.
I also feel like it felt like the sister. Yeah, they make a direct point at this, but like the sisters do like change, like personalities. Like it's Lain. It's like the dad says, "Oh, normally it's Lain that goes out. You go out, but now Lain's out all the time." And then,
yeah. And there's also like a fake out ending to one episode where Lain seems like a normal girl, where she like greets her sister, but it's like fake, and it's an interesting like merging of like a potential reality where she's like, "Oh, hi sis, I love you very much. What a great time to see you." But it's not actually what happens. Which is one of my favorite episodes is the sister episode because it's I have notes on it down here where it's like it's also like her being very lonely. Like she has a boyfriend, it seems. She has sex with him, but like she doesn't talk to him at all. And she like just walks out on him, and he's like, "Maybe we should have sex again, bro." And she just walks out, and then she goes and she like sees Lain in the middle of the street. And she doesn't really freak out, and then she bumps into like the little kid. I've forgotten his name. Is his name Taru? It might be Taru.
Yeah, Taru.
Now that is a Devilman character, I think, or is it something else? There's a Taru and something else that I'm thinking of, but who cares? But yeah, she's like, it's very like I think that's a really effective of like the sister at first seems like the cool older sister who's like going to parties and being cool stuff, but She's lonely too, and I think a lot of the, especially I guess until like the plot kicks off in like the second half, a lot of it is like the stewing like sort of on the loneliness and the vibes and stuff like that. So true, so true. But me, it sounded like you liked the sister episode too.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite episode. That was definitely when I locked in on the show. I really liked that one. In general, I think I really liked both the sister and Alice slash Adisu for the same reasons that they seemed, at least at the start, they both seemed to be one of the two characters that actually seemed to be like kind of normal and be like questioning like all the weirdness, because every character is like so like disconnected, like constantly disassociated from reality. Almost, they just like say these really weird things and act these really weird ways, and no one seems to question it. Like there's the when then the girl commits suicide at the start, and they're talking about it at the school. I remember Alice being like, "Why are we like talking about this so lightly? Why don't you guys care?" And everyone's just kind of doesn't really care at all. And she's like kind of the only emotionally grounding character in the show. And I thought the sister was like that for a bit too, until episode 5, where she kind of gets
mind
completely
whatever.
flipped. Whatever happens to her there. And so I was really interested in how that happened to the sister, and I felt like that they kept that up with Alice the rest of the way, and she was definitely my favorite character because of it.
Yeah, because there's also did I just forget what I was going to say in the middle? My goodness. Oh, there's like the friend characters too, like Erisu's friends, but they're just like mean all the time. So it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, there are very few characters. There's also the other kids. There's there's Taru, and then the little girl that's likes Taru a lot and hates Lain because she's always showing up. And then the other older dude that I don't remember. And then there's the bar guy. Let's just name the characters right now. Who seems to think that Lain is like an adult sometimes or something.
Yeah, the bar place is weird in general. That's another thing. There's just like kids there. All right,
that's
cool.
True. They just dress up
it's
old.
A club.
And
it's literally a club. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not even that. The elementary school kids sitting at the table.
Yeah, that's true too.
No one's questioning any of this.
It's like a seedy location in an RPG, right? There's just some crazy people in there, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. God, the fucking sound effects in there are so cool. Fuck all this fucking theming stuff. Lain is like the best audio-visual experience anime has to offer, you know? It's so cool. The music as it comes in and out of the club, it just gets in your head. You're just flowing with it. It's the vibes. That's what we'd be saying. But anyway, back to this thematic nonsense. There is the sister episode. I know I have a note on that, so let me just go down there. No, it looks like we already said all that shit, so this is crazy.
Well, actually, I'm curious. What is your interpretation of what actually happened there? Because my understanding is that there was also a version of her in the Wired for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And when those two like came face to face, it caused something to happen.
Yeah, that's sort of what I assumed. I don't have really a hard point on it. It's sort of like, especially early on, there's like a lot of like weird sort of mystical stuff going on, like the people just showing up in like shadows at the school, and it seems like these are like echoes from the Wired as they're crossing over. But yeah, it because we do like have we sort of have the scenes of them creating Lain's family for her, or Lain creating her family for her, however it ends up working. And it is like the sister is not really the sister, so it's like, is this her coming to terms with that, or what's happening here? I'm not sure. She is still like one of the other coolest scenes in the show is like when Alice goes to the house and it's all run down, and the sister is just like jump scares and is like just on her fake phone or whatever, and she's on like the staircase. Pretty cool, bro. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like a wired version, I think. Is my reading, I guess. That's all I got. Oh, her family's not connected. Oh, I read that one. Navi draws her into being connected, falls asleep in front of it after the traumatizing night at Siberia. Oh, that's a cute scene too. Man, now I'm just remembering scenes that I like. Where it's like she comes home after being questioned by the police after the dude kills himself at Siberia, which is the club. And like she clearly like walks around to try and see if anybody wants to talk to her or ask where she's been or what happened to her, but nobody does. Like the mother just gets mad at her and is like, well, go to your room or something. And like the father is like too obsessed with his computers, and the sister doesn't really know how to, or I can't even remember what she's doing. She might not even be there. And it's like she does the hello Navi thing. Oh, it's so cute. And then Navi says hello Lane, and you're like, oh, this is so cute. And then she falls asleep at her desk or whatever because she has nothing else. My goodness, it was cute. It was sad. It was the vibes, bro. But yeah, that was cool. She also, I have it written down here. She says goodbye, good night, Navi, good night, Lane. Oh my goodness, computers are the best. EliteAri's got a point. She's also got the stuffed animals. Those like her room is completely bare besides the stuffed animals on the windowsill, which I think everybody can see as they're listening to us right now.
Yep.
It's our visual. And her bed over there. My goodness, there we go. The bear onesie, crazy stuffed animals. When she awakes, her mother chastises her and did tell her about the previous night. We talked about that. And then another connection thing is like the lights from the guys that are kind of stalking her thing, where it's like, oh, the lights are in the car. That means there's people in there, which means potential connections, etc., etc. There's also obviously the light poles and the what do you call those things? Power lines, and then the shadows and stuff. The shadow, like the red shadow stuff, is probably another one of the more famous images from this. Probably just because it's from episode 1, and a lot of people probably start the show and don't finish it, so they remember that. There's a voice on the train that tells her she's not alone, which is probably the first god dude. And then the Chisa stuff. There's a Chisa talk I think at the end of the second episode that's really cool. And then she like fades out into nothing when she says there's no reason for her to be in the world anymore, etc., etc. So I don't know if I got to read out all these. These are just cool, like under the thematic umbrella of connection, loneliness, isolation, etc., etc. And I think at the end, the point is just like, well, you got to have a friend in life, you know. Being alone sucks. Don't you feel alone a lot? Lane feels alone, and even when like everything goes wrong and she ruins her relationship, she does everything to keep her connection with Erisu. And even when she becomes God, she can't get rid of it. She still has a connection to them, you know. This is a thematic point in a lot of things, you know. Ever heard of Berserk? Anybody ever heard of? I can't think of another example off the top of my head. Eren Yeager kind of became a god, but still loved his friends. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of. It was interesting because I was like wondering if it would go this way, of like she would get more connected. It is classic as always. Being like human connection, very important.
True. Remember in that great Kyle Entertainment video where I said all stories about like 2 things or something? What a terrible video, but you know, it proves itself true every time. Can you believe
it? Yeah, exactly. Like it's
life sucks, but keep going. What was the other one, Bacon? Do you remember? Fuck this dumb video. Stronger Together. That was the other one, Bacon. I'm a genius. That fits. Stronger Together. That's this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's as always. I kind of think like I was wondering I was wondering if it was gonna go as like that real life is better. Like
it
after
kind
all
of
this
does,
stuff,
right?
Yeah,
I think it
but
kind
then
of does.
if it's not real life initially, then I guess it's ruined. But
True, because me and Elite I don't remember what we've been talking about recently, but we always have this point where it's like everything has to sort of come down to like technology, like scary bad, real life connection good. What the fuck? What do we talk about anything besides fucking Chainsaw Man, EliteAri? What are we talking about?
Yeah, the Great
here?
Lost
What
of Us. My goodness. No, I got no idea.
Is that? No, I don't know. You know, it was something we've been talking about or something. Or it's just like technology bad. I guess I was talking about how Chrono Trigger is kind of like that because I just finished Chrono Trigger. I was probably bloviating about that to EliteAri one time after a Chainsaw Man, you know, deep in the night. But it kind of does that too a little bit, where the conceit of the show is kind of that technology is like this scary, what's going on the internet, bro? They got aliens on there. They got, you hear this Bush guy? He like did something. Those sequences are really cool, by the way. Even just from a visual perspective, the live action cut-in segments. It's obviously
I thought those were
off-putting.
the coolest thing. I thought like
Yeah.
when the guy was like the guy. Actually, there was a point where the guy was like, "Oh, I'm connected to the wires." Okay. If I was gonna be an online person of how this was prophetic, it's the guy where he's like, "Oh, I found the knights," and he's got the visors on, and he's like going through, which is like clearly like a thing covering normal like video footage. I was like, this is like an IRL streamer. Going through like Tokyo. Like I'm thinking of all like the streamers that go to like Tokyo and like say, guys, we're in the middle of Tokyo right now, and they're like talking in the wired, which is the internet, more than they are actually going into the real world, and it's like this like disconnect from reality, which is interesting. That's what it reminded me of.
He was just a wannabe knight, We do see some real knights. There's one fat otaku dude. There's a sexy housewife, and there's a businessman with a sexy girlfriend/secretary. Pretty sexy, but the people talk about that. It's like, man, they also knew that it wasn't just fat guys that were hackers. It was cool guys and housewives too. You never know who could be a hacker. I swear to God, in every Lain video, you'll talk about how prophetic it is, and that's part of it.
I also thought it was funny that like the mother was like, "Oh, you should play more video games."
Yeah, it was funny.
That's like the least.
That's
like the least.
Yeah, she's terminally online. But then she tries not to be, and she just wants to play the game with a kid, and then they fucking killed her. But I think she was alive in the end with the when Lain made everything good. What a nice little happy ending. Is there anything good in these notes here on Lain got a letter and was happy at some point, and because she had a little bit of connection. She's drawn to the wide and the sadness of loneliness and being pulled out of the real world. Gets a message from her father in the doorway. She does really like her dad, which is kind of cute, but then the dad sort of like his fakeness shows and it's off-putting to her. Episode 4 opens on a monologue about how parents are not necessary and people aren't connected to anyone. Oh my god, it's like antithetical to the point. That's crazy. Episode 5 opens and Lain is standing in the middle of the intersection again. This is crazy, unmoving. This is where she first speaks to God. Wow. Lain gets mints or something and is happy, but that's true. I think that's the same scene where I love scenes in the show. They're all on the crosswalk and there's like some like a random person going up and giving people like mints or was it like wipes or something? And Lain was like really excited that somebody gave her something, but then she got sad when she realized they were giving them to everybody. I was like, oh, she's just alone, guys. Come on. So
and
cute.
Then it has the cult on it and the prophecy.
Well, only with the sister, because the sister's like brain is getting hacked or something. Everybody else, it was just a nice little.
Oh wait, can I just say? Did you guys get subs for all the like Japanese text on screen?
Yes.
Well, God, I consulted with ChatGPT a lot when I was watching this. Okay, I'd screenshot the thing. I'm like, what is it saying right here? And then it would tell me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it was a lot.
On the note EliteAri, it said die a bunch of times, I believe, or like you don't need your body anymore, kill yourself or something. It was written on the back of a toilet thingy. That was pretty cool. I love Serial Experiments Lain, 10 out of 10. But true. That sucks. Yes, on my great torrent that I downloaded many years ago, it has all the little things, all the little text messages, all the little notes, all the little stuff written on the computers sometimes. It's crazy. But that's all I have for the connectivity / loneliness / isolation subheading. And now we're on page 3 or 4 of notes, so pretty cool. Does anybody have anything to say about that, or should I move on to the real Lain ? Subheading? Now this is going to be stuff.
I guess the only thing I'd add on it is that I think that's the one theme I really, really latched onto, mostly because of really liking Alice's character, because I felt like that was definitely the point of keeping her around, that she because I was kind of waiting for her to end up becoming like kind of fading into the background and becoming another kind of desensitized character, but she kind of keeps her emotional sensitivity the whole time, her empathy for Lain as well. Like she always trusts Lain, like that Lain is being honest with her, even when something happens that kind of she would think that Lain is not being honest and truthful with her emotions, but
she spreads
always
rumors
believes
about her. My goodness.
Yeah. And then,
That's
just the fact that she always kind of believes in Lain, even kind of in the end when she's very scared of what is happening, she doesn't seem to fully let go of Lain and let go of the trust for her. So I think Alex fucking rocks.
She's pretty cool.
And it kind of plays in that theme very well.
The there is a cool part where she is like resetting like memories for the first time, and then nobody else can see Lain but Alice can, and there's like the really big like 3-pronged jump scare of like she turns around and Lain is there, and then I think it's the same scene where like the energetic Lain like comes in and nobody can see shy meek Lain, and it's all really cool stuff. A lot of the like
that made me emotional. I actually I got really sad for Lain there. I'll talk about that later. Go ahead.
Okay. I like a lot of the exterior school shots. I feel like there's usually cool artsy shit happening then. Not that all that kind of is all the time, but that was particularly one of them. And it is true. You brought this up briefly, where it's like at like the climax of the fight with the god character. I think at the end of the second last episode or the third last episode is like Lain has to hold on to Alice, and like literally like the real life human connection like protects her from the crazy god monster that's like the internet incarnate. So I definitely think in that sense it's sort of like the real life connection good. Please do that, otaku watching this show. Don't stay online and talk to your online friends. This is bad and not going to lead to good things, and you're wasting your life. Which is sort of like the meme. Especially for these types of shows, like the ones we've been saying, like everybody memes that's like the point of Ava is like, please go outside, otherwise you're gonna kill yourself. Go outside. It's kind of seems like the case here. I don't know. I haven't seen all of Utena. EliteAri would have to chime in on that. But like Razafan is like that too. I don't know. And a lot of these stories sort of have this concept of like everybody's going to become one, or there is going to be a collective conscious, not even unconscious, that we're all just going to meld into, and then we can't hurt each other, etc. And it always ends up being like you have to reject that, and that's like the thematic revelation. You know, it's pretty true in Naruto too. You know, Naruto the best. You know, EliteAri, when are we doing Naruto? You know. But anyway,
one thing I want to add on what you said about how it's saying like real life connection over the like is better than a connection over the wire. I feel like I feel like it's more about how like sincere connections are more important, not losing touch with emotions between each other.
Yeah,
it just obviously she has no sincere connection over the wire. It's all these people who like they tried to like kill her at one point, right? They planted like a bomb in her computer.
That is true. The Knights did try to kill her at one point.
Yeah, so like all of these connections she has and she's kind of leaning into are just not sincere. And I guess you could say the point is that you can't form a sincere connection over
kind
wired, of. But I don't really think it is as much a go outside as I don't know. I definitely thought it's more like you need to focus on maintaining your I guess emotional depth, and not becoming so disconnected and disassociated from emotions.
It is like the internet relationships aren't good, IRL relationships aren't good, but good relationships are good kind of thing, where it's like
that's definitely
this has to be the case. It's just like most of them
are
choosing
interrelationships are awful. They're not real.
This is true.
Yeah, I'm saying this because I'm on a call with people I think are my friends over the internet. So
it's all fake, Mir. It's all fake. You know, I met
my computer.
Yeah. Me and I have seen each other.
Oh, you two idiots met too.
Yeah. So
my goodness.
All I know, my only friend here is Mir.
Can we address that for a second? EliteAri, they copied us.
True, they did. Yeah.
They just want to be us so bad. It's embarrassing. But 2 points on what Mia just said before I divert into jokes. I wrote it down so I won't forget this time. It is true where it's like, even like if you are in any sort of relationship that is like primarily over the internet, or even like a long distance interpersonal like a romantic relationship, it is just like proximity is almost everything a lot of the time, where it's like that's going to be the more real relationship, just because it's like it's less like you can read each other. We've been saying vibes a lot. You can read the vibes or whatever a lot better and understand more what people need if you're near them, or like where you stand if you're near them. Whereas like it's much easier to get into finicky like fights over nothing if you're just like texting and context is lost or whatever. And obviously this would be more the case for a relationship on the internet from like 1998 or whatever, where I guess you can voice call. I guess you can psyche to psyche call in the wired if you're strong enough or whatever. But that obviously, if you're trying to make some sort of thematic point that would resonate in real life, you can't do that shit. Back in the great 1998 or wherever the fuck we said it was from. The other thing is, Lain at some point around here does like kind of hack them all into loving her, right? Maybe the most famous thing from this entire show is the "Let's All Love Lain" sequence. It's like a meme. I feel like it was much more popular like 10 years ago. I feel like I haven't seen it in a little while.
Lain.
Yes, true.
I think Lain has grown. It's funny because of the TikTok song. Basically, that's what people know as. But they've seen Lain. This is, I guess, what I was going to go on to about this meme I had with this tweet I found and may have also lost again. Where the heck did I put it? Oh yeah, because there's this tweet. I'm going to link it now, where it says, "This is probably the most non-watched thing ever." I'm referring
that
to
everybody like recognizes.
Yeah, like everybody like, and it almost linked perfectly in a meta way back to the subject where Lain becomes this god that like lots of people remember but don't remember why, like how they know it, and like Lain is like this like forever thing on the internet, in the wide world. It's this weird like meta.
Yeah, it's like she's the god of the internet, bro. That's why we all know what she is.
And if you go deep enough, you'll know, and you'll probably see it. And it's kind of cool that it's like through TikTok in another medium. Lain has already been on YouTube, already been on Reddit, already been on 4chan, already been on however many message boards, and yet TikTok, the new sensation, taking over everything. Lain still finds its way to prevalence on TikTok by one way or another, whether it's through this, like old anime aesthetic, whether it's through Boa, Duvet. The OP and all this stuff. So, which I think is, I didn't know until I watched it. That's what that could link. But I think that's maybe my interesting.
Yeah, it is like a weird meta thing. I literally made a scripted video about this on the old channel before it got deleted, where it was like called "How Lain Conquered Meme Culture" or something. It was called. It was just like. I think there is a popular Lain video that makes fun of all other Lain videos, and my video is in like a compilation thing that he is making fun of. But I've never been able to find that video before. I know I saw it one time a long time ago, but obviously that whole channel is now deleted, so I can't check that. So it might literally have like the old. It'll probably say Entertainment Nation near it because that was the old channel name.
Your alt-right channel.
Yes, true, because it had Nation in the title. That was the joke back in the day. But yeah, so this is sort of like a thing that's been sort of talked about and sort of counter talked about a lot, about whether or not that's actually like the point or whatever. But it is. This was just going to tie back into the isolation, the loneliness thing. Is it like she's kind of like become this thing in the wild that everybody loves, but nobody actually knows her or anything like that. But Alice actually does, and that's like why that relationship is important. That's why at the end, like the fucking like it thwarts the evil bad guy. I forget this. He's the scientist guy that thinks he's God. I can't remember his name though. But yeah, crazy. It is a true point where it is like it does oddly thematically line up that like Lain is like a very present piece of iconography, I guess, that people don't understand. Kill yourself, Mira. I did it too. Can you believe it? True. What were we talking about? Did we finish that?
I have something I want to say, which is that we're talking about memes and stuff.
EliteAri!
There was one scene in this where Lain is like eating dinner with her family or something. And I don't know, it's just like Lain is such like a meme, the character design of Lain, that this scene just felt like a meme to me. It felt like, oh, like the meme that I've seen around is like eating dinner at the moment. Like this isn't from the show. This is like a thing I've seen before. It's like a meme of like you have all these different characters from different places all like eating at the table or something.
It could lend itself well, where it's like, oh, they're not talking. and it's like very awkward, and it's like this is what my family is like, bro.
It's not even that. What I mean is that like Lane's character design is like a meme to me. Like it's so much. I knew the design beforehand. Like I've seen it so many times that when I see it in the show, I'm like, this isn't a real character. This is like a meme character that's like they made a show about it or something.
You've become desensitized to Lane as a person.
yeah, true. Yep. Amen. So yeah.
You're a terrible person, EliteAri. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
That's not what I was saying.
EliteAri's a bad person.
It's true. Yeah.
He wants AI taking away jobs, EliteAri.
Yep. It's a sad thing.
Anyway, my next one is a lot shorter. It's just the real Lain, and I think we might have already gone over all of this. Lain is oftentimes demure and quiet, and sometimes isn't. On the train in episode 1, she yells at everybody to be quiet. That's like a first indication that there's something else going on here. Siberia is a metaphor for how the internet and something acted the opposite of what they usually do. Chief example, Lain. Episode 3 opens with murmuring about how everybody's heard of Lain in the Wired. Erisu is taken aback, perhaps, by Lain changing thanks to the Wired. 2 different Lanes. There's actually 3 of them. And then Lain tries to kill Lain at some point. That was crazy. What a cool scene. Is it just internal conflict externalized? Which is yes, is the answer to that. Is it just a metaphor for growing up in puberty and changing from a little girl into a teenager? Because the little one, the original one is very shy and sort of demure, and the older one seems more grown up. I don't know whether or not there's another me in the Wired, but I know that there's no other me in the real world. Lain says very confidently at one point. I don't know why she was so confident in that, and I don't entirely understand. The other one has only appeared with a body in the club, which was interesting. Like Siberia, the club seems to be like an interstice, I guess, between the Wired and the real world. It seems to be.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Rather than a literal thingy, because there's kids there. We were talking about that earlier. You only need to manipulate the memories of the people there, right? Oh yes, for Lain to like. That was like what evil Lain was doing for a little bit. And that's all I have for my subtitle, The Real Lain. I guess we've already talked about the split personality thing. I don't know if everybody has anything more or anything that I just said jumped out at them. If so, speak now. Oh.
Is Lain schizophrenic?
Not really. There is like a bonus manga or something that she is like literally mentally ill, I think. I've never read it. People bring it up in YouTube videos sometimes. So I guess the answer might be yes. And that like brings in like, is it all a dream? Is it all just her split personalities thing? I guess that's a Perfect Blue thing.
I was waiting. I think maybe like
interpretation.
I think I was like 7 or 8 episodes in where I gave up on that. But for a while I was like, oh, maybe this is actually just more about like derealization and like having
that does seem like another EliteAri thing. I feel like you think that a lot.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like there's one scene I liked a lot. Which is like a very small thing, and I think it's in episode 1 where she's like staring at the whiteboard or something, and the pictures of the text is like turning into weird shapes and stuff, and she's seeing these like
it says go to the Wired, but you probably didn't see that because it didn't.
Well, no, don't worry. I had ChatGPT. Okay, I'm sure I pasted it in and told me what it was. But yeah, I felt like, oh, okay, so this could be like someone who's seeing like symbols and stuff that isn't there, and it's like a more commentary on something like that. But in the end, I'm like, oh no, probably not.
Conspiracy is a part of the show, right? There's the conspiracy about this Bush guy and the Roswell shit, so that does track a little bit, I guess.
No. I think the biggest thing dispelling it is when we see other perspectives. Like we see other characters in their own scenes by themselves, and it's like, oh, okay, so this isn't just like we're not just watching this through Lane's perspective. We're watching it through other people. Well, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. True, I guess. My last one before miscellaneous stuff is like it just says mystery. It was me like trying to recall me figuring it out last time. There's a bunch of clues here. I don't know if I'd really need to read all this out. I had a great Devilman reference here, EliteAri, where I said, is this a Ryu situation where Lain doesn't realize she's God/Satan the whole time until she like has a big moment? Which is kind of what happens. Remember that, EliteAri, in the great Devilman. Oh my god, it's the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Psychic Jenny, EliteAri? She was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
EliteAri doesn't remember Psychic Jenny.
It was like Psycho Jenny. It wasn't psychic, right?
Oh, it's Psycho Jenny. You're so correct, EliteAri. You're a genius. She seems to have moments where she snaps into realization, like here at the club, commands her father to build. Oh, that was another interesting thing where she's like, the father's kind of ignoring her and says like he'll build the computer the next day, but she like says it firmly, and then he like completely changes and starts doing it for her. Second time she's seen somebody die getting close to the bloody body. True, she doesn't really seem to care about that. The knights seem to be people that dug up the wired through their Navi. Well, that's just confirmed to be true later. Good job. People aren't sure if they're real. The knights, that is. Is God one of these people? No, he's leading them. There's a call out in episode 3 about the alien. Oh my god, that was the thing I wrote down where I said they teased it at the beginning. Is the problem with the wired and the real world merging that everybody's too so? We already talked about this. Merge into one fundamentally, and nothing will change. God in the wired is not a creator or all powerful, but he is everywhere, omnipotent, omnipresent, just like Lain. She knows everything and tells everyone everything. Knowledge should be shared, shouldn't it? Question mark. Oh my god, philosophizing. That's when she tells Alice on everybody. Is Lain the alien? Question mark, or is it a metaphor for being an outsider? Because you know aliens are outsiders and Lain's outsider and isolated. I don't know.
The aliens I know of, the ones that shouldn't be in my borders.
Whoa.
True, Jockey Bacon, true.
These illegal
Mia,
aliens.
that was making fun of you and your culture over there in that weird place you live.
New Jersey.
True, New Jersey. A lot of illegal aliens, I've heard.
Yeah.
That's pretty north, EliteAri. That was the joke there.
Right, okay.
EliteAri doesn't know geography. You know, it's okay.
Those Canadians.
Yes. We gotta get rid of those ones. I heard they're gonna become a state soon. It's gonna be epic. Anyway. The one lady didn't install the... Oh, this is just a fake out. Because if you remember, there's a shot of the mother night member, and like the chip she puts in like her washing drainer thing. But then like that was...
I was confused by that.
Because it seemed like she wasn't doing it, but she was, because there was like a scene later where she was doing it. So it was like a misdirect. I don't know. The chip would have it was overriding memories or something, and she didn't install it, but she's actually part of the group that's overriding the memories, so it wouldn't have happened to her anyway. I have "Truth is God" written down, which I assume was a quote from the show and not me realizing the reality of the world. The knights want to make God real. Oh, this is kind of a thing where it's like God, like it's another, like, I guess this might be an unconsciousness thing, but this is also the case in Berserk, where it's like the people created God because they thought him up, and you know God's only real if you believe in him. And like when Lain starts not to believe everything he's saying, he starts to crumble later. But she's also hugging Alice. Let's not forget. When Lain is no longer needed in the real world, her family disappears too because they only exist for her? Question mark. Seem to be real, I guess. The collective unconscious of humanity exists. The wired is closer to the collective unconsciousness than the people in the real world, who are bound by social pressures and appearances and consequences, both internal and external. The knights are maybe the Knights Templar, which is a thing from history, bro. I know about that stuff. And their power is tapping into that unconscious, the idea of evil. True, we've done enough Berserk references. These creepy old men keep telling Lain they love her. That was true. Was Lain influencing...
Why were they saying that? I don't understand.
Because they realized she was God a little bit, I guess. And it's also like the let's all love Lain thing later. I guess she just has an inherent lovable quality. Or it's because she's a cool anime girl and we're all weird weebs.
With the dad, I thought it kind of made sense. Like, oh, he's this like... He's faking it, but he starts to feel sincere about it. But it
feels like different almost.
Well, I don't remember what his name was, but like that was so out of nowhere. I was like, what is this guy talking about? Well, I guess they've been watching Lain for a long time. Like they come back pretty often.
Well, I think that precedes the let's all love Lain stuff.
Oh, good point.
And I think it is just like they don't actually see her type thing, where it's like, but Eris does. I think it's just supposed to be a thing. But then there is a scene, is it in the last episode? I think it is, where she is having like an existential scene with there's a few like scenes where she talks to people and it's in a weird setting. There's one where it's just, I think with the dad, it's just like a tea and like a bench thing, and it's like in like a void or whatever. They seem to like make up and have a genuine moment there where it's not so creepy with the dad saying let's all love Lain or I love you or whatever. And then there's also the really cool shot of when she finds the doctor that was doing the original experiment or whatever, and it's all like the greens and the stuff like that. That's all really cool. But yes, the old men did say that they loved her. Was Lain influencing, corrupting the family around her? Oh, this was is Lain infecting? Is she the problem or something? Which, I mean, I guess it wasn't directly true, but kind of in a thematic sense. I have Peeping Tom written down, but I don't remember. I remember this had something to do with the show, but I can't remember the context.
On her phone or something while she's in.
Yeah, it's when everybody at the school was watching her.
Oh yeah, because she's she knows everything, so she's like the ultimate Peeping Tom. And this kind of ties into
that makes sense.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because the God thing is also, and Bacon brought this up lightly earlier, where it's like the God of the Wired is just watching the whole time. Like, he can't actually do anything, and how that's the worst position kind of to be in, but he's so arrogant in it, where it's like you can't actually interfere with that or anything. You're just sort of like a ghost watching society, which makes you not really a god or not really useful in any sense, whereas Lain is a real god because she can interact or whatever. So it's sort of a just watching the world happen. If we're abstracting this to the go touch grass sort of thematic beat, it's don't just watch things, go do things. It's a basic sort of existential thing, I guess. Memory and record, that's a great dot point. That's very good. Red and blue is an interesting one because there are red and blue colors all over the show, and in the to be continued thing, there's a red and a blue letter. I remember last time having a big a realization about red and blue. I have completely forgotten it. I do not remember. I'm sure it was genius.
Sorry, what? Red and blue?
So there's a lot of red and blue colors in the show, and I remember realizing that they represented something.
I'm trying to remember because in the to be continued, there was the B was red and blue, and I was like, what? Why? I also found it was the to be continued was so it always come out of left field. I'm like, oh, it's the end of an episode.
I remember it had something to do with the Siberia lights and the red dots on the thing, and there was something, and it all. I can't remember though. But I remember this is what I was going to make a video about, but I don't remember it at all now.
With blue, I kind of jumped to the ambient glow of the screens in the room.
Yeah.
That's what I would associate with blue the strongest. But red,
it could just be red is a real life stuff, but in blue is the wired stuff.
I could see that.
I don't know. Oh my goodness!
Oh my god!
Red pill, blue pill. I haven't even seen that shitty movie. Also, it came out the next year, so they loved anime. They just copied the great Seal Experiments Lain. What can I say? My next stop point is everybody loves Lain now that they're all connected, but Erisu was friends with Lain before that, and that's important. True. Got rid of the bad things is thematically bad. This is sort of the you can't take shortcuts theming stuff of we can't all just become one and get over all of our issues. We have to work through our issues as independent people. It's the same message in everything. God damn it. God as this cowardly figure always watching, never doing. My goodness. Mystery. Can you believe it? Anybody got any mysteries they want to bring up? Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? I don't know.
I have a lot of questions about stuff. Let me go through my notes.
Goodness, I'm ready to answer.
So number one, we've talked about a few of these things, but so just to clarify me here, very clearly, who are the guys with the red laser dot things? What are they doing? Who are they? What are they?
So these great red dot fellas, EliteAri, let me get this to you. One of them is an American name, and he's a little crazy. He's got blue eyes. The weird eyes in this show. It's pretty cool.
He's also called Carl. Yeah. Because it was in that scene where it's they don't have names, and then he says Carl.
Yeah, that was funny. So they're hired by this guy from Taniba Industries or something, and this guy tells them, bro, you know the Wired? That shit's been going crazy. Some people called the Knights. They're trying to fuse them, and that's gonna be bad apocalypse or something. And then but when they show up is also we think they're the Knights initially, but they're not. The Knights are the people. With the housewife and the whatever.
Yep.
And then, but it turns out that the Knights are just sort of followers of the God Dude. The God Dude, we all know the God Dude. And the God Dude was working with the boss of the guys with the red dots So they were just being like manipulated, and then they killed them in the end in that car park scene. Pretty cool scene, you know. So they were basically just lackeys that thought they were fighting the knights and helping Lain, but they weren't.
So
they were just getting manipulated.
Yeah, when they're at her house in the first few episodes, they're like looking after her. Is that what's happening there? Trying to make sure she's safe?
I guess they're trying to, because I don't think everybody knows at that point that Lain is like important. So they might just be like investigating her as a potential important person. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, she's like a unique phenomenon where they're like she's got something weird about her, but we're not sure what.
Yeah, they did seem to go that direction when they first brought her to the I guess like office building with the one computer.
Yeah, and then oh, and there's a really cool scene there where
but we don't quite know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's the cool scene where she like does like she like transforms kind of from one lane to the other there.
That was cool.
I really like the lighting in that scene. I feel like I guess I haven't talked about too much why I would like this show, like, but and we've just sort of said the vibes, but there is it is the audio visual stuff that really stood out to me this time. The lighting in certain scenes, like I can really like. There's a lot of scenes. When I rewatched Ghost in the Shell recently, the like one famous scene of like her after she's merged. I don't know, Ghost in the Shell. Vague spoilers. If you haven't seen it, you probably won't remember this. She merges with the guy, and like there's a long shot that zooms in very slowly of her sitting on a chair, and it's like she's like tilted, and the texture of like the shot and the way they painted it, or however they make anime in 1995 or whatever, is so different and off-putting and weird and like creepy. And I remembered that image, but I forgot the context of it. I forgot it was even in Ghost in the Shell. And when I saw it in Ghost in the Shell again, I was like, oh my god, this like image that's like seared into my brain is from this. I forgot about that. That's great. And it's like, oh my god, I'm seeing it again. It's giving me all these weird feelings. There are a lot of there's a lot of Lain imagery that was like that I even had forgotten was in Lain this time. There is like I think it is with the dad where they're on a chair in like this blue void. I think about that all the time. I think about that scene where it's the dude, like it's just like very basic imagery because the scene is like, I knocked the microphone. The scene is very blank besides the one thing that's happening where it's like the dude is sitting in that room. It's like orange. There's like a computer. There's nothing else in there. She like walks in and she has to like tell him which part of the computer. I don't know. That's like a very like it's very seared into my brain that I remember this a lot of this imagery here. Now it's entirely possible that like the room is yellow or something, and I'm misremembering, and that would be very funny. But like, there's a lot like the scene I already talked about with the original like scientist dude when it's on like the green and the old weird fantasy looking like stuff. Lain when she's walking through and like the mouths from the wide from people who can only like make mouths and ears as she's walking through there. The Lain imagery where she's like doing the doll stuff and like the heads fall off. I feel like almost certainly in our Chainsaw Man discussion of EliteAri, we probably talked about the dolls and I was like, the dolls remind me of something and I bet I couldn't name it. It was almost certainly that scene from Lain. So, you know, we're tying up that loose end from 3 years ago. There's a lot of little different bits of imagery like that. I feel like the entire like all of the little informational sequences that are like live actiony, or the dude in VR with the live action stuff, all this stuff is like, I feel like this is like how you direct scenes and like the flow of these scenes. I feel like the flow is a very big thing in this scene too. I remember one time me and Bacon, like we were talking about the flow one time and we were doing a discussion of something and Leroy was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But there's like a flow you get into where it's like easy to watch. I suck at watching things. I'm always miserable. I'm always like, how long's I got left? These Lain episodes, they just like breeze by and they're like, oh, what a sensory experience it is. And then you get out of the other
they were breezing by for
obviously
me once I got to 2x speed. 1x speed was not doing
True. 2x speed might get you right in the rhythm. Maybe it's, you know, it connects that way. But obviously a lot of this discussion is going to be about like the ideas and stuff because I don't really like, besides watching it and being like, man, look at that fucking color right there. Like you can't really I guess explain why I like the show so much, I guess. True, I guess. EliteAri was asking questions.
All right. Next up. There was a scene I liked a lot. And I actually, at this point, I don't even remember why I liked it a lot, but I remember thinking, man, this is like so cool. Oh my god, it's like so cool. Which is when the names of the knights were published and then they all like died. I thought that was
cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
That was like that scene in Chainsaw Man, bro. When
True,
like,
it was.
killed everybody, bro.
Yep. Yeah. But my question here.
It was like that scene in Death Note, bro, when he killed people, bro.
Yes, all the Nucky Harbor guys after they stopped working with him, and the guys that
Mitsuba.
L hired that were like, one of them was a girl. Oh my god,
Mhm.
Death Note's the coolest of all time. Don't let Jockey Bacon fucking besmirch the greatest series of all time.
Yeah. So my great question. Let's see who can answer this. Did they commit suicide, or were they all killed? What happened there with those people?
I think they were all killed. That was my assumption.
It seemed to say that they did. I mean, the one guy we saw.
Well, the news thought they committed suicide.
Yeah, the
right?
news said they committed suicide, and I guess it's possible it all just looked like a suicide. We only saw one actually happen, and the guy was clearly murdered.
Wait, no.
He killed
All
himself.
they were killed by the light guy, like the fake night guys, right? They were killed by the ones with the lasers. Like they all admit to kill, and we even see them kill the one dude, right?
Yeah,
No, he kills himself,
for
though.
example. Like the mom dies like at the table while like the kid is right by her playing the game.
Well,
and her coffee is like not clear and stuff.
I assumed the implication was that it was kind of done remotely through the wire.
Or they hacked them or something.
Yeah, interesting.
They do inject that one dude with like the gun and stuff.
Yeah, that one was direct.
Doesn't he do it himself though?
No.
I don't think so.
I thought he killed himself in front of them.
Happened too fast. That scene was just so fast. I didn't know what happened.
Oh my God.
Man, I should have gone at 4x speed. Maybe I would have got it.
If you have YouTube Premium, you can do 3 times speed bacon, or if you have that extension, you can do even more. I think so.
I have YouTube Premium, and you can only do 2. Maybe it's on the phone.
No, you're a liar.
Wait, I have YouTube Premium too. Wait, what can I do? Let's have a look. I can only do 2 as well. Where'd you get this from, Kyle?
I guess maybe it's only on phones, but I can definitely do it. I can send a screenshot.
All right.
There's and now I just have all
right, they were murdered. Okay, my last question. This isn't a mystery thing at all. This is just like a question I have. At the end, there was the idea of like, okay, if you want to get away from everything that's happening, you guys with the laser eyes, just go somewhere without like electricity and stuff. Would doing that work?
That's the craziest part.
Yeah, but like, would that work? And what would happen? Like, would they still remember
it
Lain?
wasn't electricity, was it? It was like where there's no like data or like I was just like, dude, this is 99. Like there are so many places on the earth that you can go to that aren't connected.
That is true.
Just get a shit.
Well, it's like the fantasy thing of like the wide is everywhere or whatever, so you're fucked. Like it's a little bit more than real life, I guess. So it kind of works.
All right.
And there you go. The evidence that you can do 3 times speed on YouTube on the app. You guys suck. You're all stupid. That's another win for me.
Did anybody deny that?
Yes, they all did.
Okay.
They said,
I guess I don't care about that point.
Just know, Mia, that I won. That's all that matters.
Okay. Good.
EliteAri, how many more mysteries you got for us?
That's it. That's all my mysteries.
Oh my goodness. Anybody else got
Wait,
any
no, wait.
mysteries they want
I just
to bring
remembered. This isn't a mystery, but it's another question. My other last question. And no one's gonna know the answer to this. I don't know why I'm asking, but
I know.
Why was there a like half recap episode? Was there like a production issue or like?
Yeah,
that was the coolest recap of all time. I love that fucking shit.
Lain recap.
I thought it was so interesting because I was kind of
so cool.
It kind of was
like a music video
because this is when she was fully.
That was the biggest flow of all time.
Herself and kind of, I took it as half. It's padding a little bit for half an episode, but it's also kind of she's literally reliving everything all at once when she kind of fully connects herself to the wire. That's the implication.
It is,
yeah.
It's only half the episode.
Because if it's a recap, I don't think it's a very coherent recap. Like things
not really.
aren't really in order. It definitely feels more like I don't know. I think it's a mix. I think it serves the same kind of production purpose as a recap, but it's kind of worked into the narrative well enough and directed well enough where it kind of doesn't feel like one.
Yeah, it is legit. It's like legitimately one of my favorite scenes in the whole show is that 10-minute sequence. The Ava does a very, very similar thing where it also does a half episode recap, but it's like, here's the top secret nerve report, and it gives you some slightly new information in there where it's like, and it does the edit. I think it's where Bacon gets the editing for the end of the Goodbye Attack on Titan video, where it's like those are just the middle sections, but they do it in that recap where it's like the Like, oh, this is Angel Incident 004, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit of recap, and it is like the wacky cutting, and it's almost like a cool new little artistic sequence in and of itself, even if it is just reused footage. It's like them making their own AMV almost in an episode. So yeah. But it wasn't Ava inspired, right?
Tal, you haven't actually seen the greatest anime with the greatest recap episode. Do you want to guess which one has?
Is it going to be One Direct Priority? Ah, shitty Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, she has a great recap episode because you watching like, was that a recap episode? It's kind of like this.
They call the first 7 episodes recap because they ran through the manga so fast. Jockey Bacon, take that.
Yeah, mate.
But what are they doing? I'm actually curious.
It's more like I'm actually trying to remember, but basically it's like they just take a character you haven't seen much of, and then reveal like they know somebody. And it makes sense that they know someone, and then they just kind of talk throughout it, but from like a different perspective. But then people like, oh, it's not nearly as like artistic as this, but it does hide it.
It's more of like a story thing than
it's like
a aesthetic thing. It is interesting. That would be a good YouTube video that I feel like would get like 200,000 views. It's like the best recap episodes in anime, bro. Then you got shitty Lane over here and
when recap episodes are good.
True. There you go, Jockey Bacon. Get on it. Start making it. You're the one with all the views, nowadays. How much did Shitty Heimerdinger get you? My goodness.
60k. But I haven't released any videos for a while. No, that was the other one.
What was the other one? There were 2 arcane one. Oh, yeah.
The main one, yeah.
Oh, that's right. True. Oh, I remember now. What a video. Now I just have miscellaneous notes that are literally like random shit where it says the science cut-ins and what they mean, ? They were pretty cool. The delivery guy, that's a character. He comes up a bunch of times. He's always...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was
He was a cool guy.
I liked when he had his little sister at the end. That was my favorite scene where it's like all the people were living without Lane and like the alternate universe.
That is cool,
and the god guy was like, I'm going to quit my job. I quit my job tomorrow, I swear.
Yeah, that was funny. He was just a insecure little man playing God. Can you believe it? That is also a very, very, very like last episode of Ava thing. So kind of crazy that we're pretending we didn't watch Ava. Kill a little girl shows up and her mother's being completely normal little girl. Oh, true. There's a dude that's getting haunted and he's running through like a dungeon crawler game. That was all a cool sequence.
Yeah, what was up with that girl as well? Because I thought like Lane was like wearing a similar costume to it later. Was that meant to be Lane? Or?
I think it's supposed to be like sometimes Lane would just appear in like a shadowy figure or whatever. I think it was just supposed to be like Lane haunting this.
And then I also was thinking,
I think it's speaking to the omnipresence, right? It's like I don't think there was any one of the 3 lanes either. That was just the manifestation of her presence.
But everywhere. Yeah, the little girl wasn't actually like an evil. I think it was just like somebody he had seen, and she was like taking advantage of that memory or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting how they looked like they did actually make like an old FPS just to film for that scene.
Yeah, I thought that was
cool.
With
the 3D because it had like that Doom.
Yeah, it's
Doom texturing and running and stuff like that. Quake as well. Look.
DJ guy at Siberia refers to Lane as an adult. I feel like I already brought that up. The game sequence. Oh my god, Jockey Bacon, you're predictive right here. You're literally still Experiments Lain predicting what I'm going to say. Parents and sisters getting replaced or phased out. We already talked about that. The text pop-ups and responding to itself, or is it Lane and Chisa talking back and forth? This is from episode 1. I think the answer is it's Lane and Chisa talking to each other, but we don't have context for it. I honestly don't remember. Because it's like, how does it feel to die? And then like it'll be like Chisa saying, you don't need a body, but then it'll say, but it really hurts or whatever. So it's sort of like these contradictory little lines. You're like, who do we believe here? It's cool. And then another one which was, why did you die? Because God was here. That's a pretty cool line, bro. It's a pretty cool line. And then my last 2 is as a note that just says, in quotes, I love kissing. Just kissing is enough to make me happy. So that was cute. That must have been something somebody was saying in one of the sequences where people are saying a lot of stuff. Lane is in the TV, then fades into the wired at the end of the OP. That's crazy. I do really like the sort of recontextualization of the humming sound throughout the whole show, where it's like, oh, that's like Lane's omnipresent like godness, and it's like, oh, we were listening to that at the very beginning. But that's all of my notes there.
Wow.
Thank goodness, because I am falling, I am fading.
Don't worry, I got a
Jeez.
bunch of
Oh
nerds
my
bacon.
goodness.
My goodness.
He's got a million of
no.
them. That was another joke to the opening, EliteAri, you idiot. You didn't
Yeah,
get
I
it.
have
You're
no
an idiot.
idea. I watched that opening twice. Okay, it was really good. I liked it a lot.
I am falling. I am fading.
Oh, right, true.
I am drowning. What's the next line, EliteAri?
Help
me to
breathe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, EliteAri.
Okay, just the meta thing. At the beginning of every episode, in the version I watched, I don't know what it's like for you. When they say the episode name, it's like Leia whatever. That's in the sub too, right? It's not in like Japanese. It like says the name of the episode. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
And the voice is the voice in English or is
Religion.
the voice in?
Yeah, it's in English.
It's
Okay.
Now I think the voice is like a voice program on like old Macs or something. So we're all supposed to get that because we're in 1998 using a MacBook. But I didn't know that.
Well,
I
I
just
was
saw
also
the cool
cringing
voice.
that it said 0 instead of O.
0.
Huh?
1.
Why? What's wrong with that?
I think it's like a British thing. You don't.
Oh.
When it's like a number and you're reading out, you say O, not 0.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
okay.
like 007 for James Bond.
That
you don't
makes
say
perfect sense.
007, my favorite James Bond film franchise. 000, that's what you call. That's the emergency line here,
That is
Bacon. You
true.
don't like that one? You
Oh,
want
do you guys say
000?
triple? You don't go O or double.
No, 000.
But we could do a double.
000. You got to
Yeah,
call
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's for your fire, your ambulance, and your police officer.
Yeah, we got 999.
Think you're cool or something? 000 is way cooler.
All right, I'm gonna continue on.
You know what America's is? 9/11. That's crazy, bro.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
I think not.
My
Was the
goodness,
reference
he did
to? Was that a reference
The
to?
Incredibles.
it. I don't know, but I said it in my
Yeah.
head.
There you go, Ari. Ari
Thank
knows.
you.
He's culturally literate.
Yeah.
Educated.
All right, Serial Experiments Lain is incredibly like it would.
Lame.
If I was a child watching this, it would give me nightmares, and it'd be like the scariest thing I've ever seen. I think. Yeah.
I was gonna bring
No,
this
it's
up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like this is
I
like.
don't think it's that scary. EliteAri was saying this about the opening earlier too. I'm like,
Oh no, I don't
it's
find
cool,
this
bro.
scary at all. I think if I was a kid, I would find this terrifying. In a similar way, there's two things. One is like Courage the Cowardly Dog. That is like a thing that I used to be so scared of as a kid, but it's like not really that scary as an adult. It's like more of a comedy kind of. But like the way that it portrays like things visually, like kind of makes it really scary. And there's another thing which no one, unless you're listening right now and you're just like a very niche Australian person who grew up when I did and watched TV at the same time I did and everything. But there was this thing called like. I don't remember what it was like salad opera or something like that. Like some weird thing where it's like these abstract like fruits that come together to form people and it like has an opera singing in the background. It's like the most terrifying thing in the world. It gave me nightmares. I feel like Serial Experiments Lain is like the same light where it's like weird stuff is going on and the visuals are kind of scary, but it's like not really scary, but it like has like intense music and stuff sometimes and sound effects are loud
when-
and it's
when-
like, yeah.
When Alice was going up the stairs, because this is Ari's point, we call her Alice.
Thank you.
It wasn't like it felt like this should have been more unnerving than it actually was. Like seeing the sister there on the phone going beep boop boop beep beep and all this
Yeah.
stuff. But I was like, oh, I feel safe because Lane's cool. I think, like I wasn't worried for Alice. So,
I think 2 times speed is gonna ruin this because I feel like the pacing of
no,
the
the pacing was exactly
horror-
the same.
okay, the way the horror scenes were directed and paced, I thought was really, really well. Like it was just really good. And episode 5 in particular, really like kind of worked for me. A lot of the scenes they did where you have like you hear like a kind of like door open and you turn around and someone's just kind of standing there. It genuinely was creepy. And
That
it
is
made me
true.
That was
uncomfortable.
good sound design.
I wasn't like scared, but I was definitely very, very uncomfortable a lot of the time.
When the sister's in the bathroom and there goes, and you're just like, what's that? And then she closes the door and you're like, oh, it was the bathroom stall, not the door to the bathroom. I was like, that's a good reveal. And also, like other parts of the sound design was like when it was like when she the first reveal where she's like got her room and then she's like walking and she's walking in like puddled water. I was like, huh? This is so weird. It's like
Oh yeah. Because she has all the Coolidge stuff.
Yeah.
yeah,
It is
it's like leaking out. And I'm just like, this is really. I mean, this wouldn't work because it would just leak through the floor, and I don't even know. I guess there is one argument for like the theory that like this world wasn't actually real either. Like I think I'm actually on the side of like there is no real world in Serial Experiments Lain. Because none of that technology makes sense, but maybe it's the future. I don't know. I thought it was meant to be
Or
like
maybe they just didn't understand it too well.
Yeah. Just yeah, don't use liquid cooling. Always could go wrong. Like when they explode a bomb. But then she fixed it real quick as well. So
she kind of just went back to it. I thought she'd be like, I have to set up somewhere else, but no, she just kind of went back.
She just
like
debugged it, bro. It
So
was
why
hanging
did-
outside of her window for a little bit, you know, or it just
Yeah,
got
I thought
bigger,
that was a
guess.
cool visual. They showed that kind of
Pretty cool.
growing. It almost like like a literal growth on the side.
Also,
Real
like how little personality her room had before it was in there. It's like the clean whites, and then you got like quite a few visuals of the full room. But then after that, you couldn't quite make out all the details afterwards. Kind of cool.
Yeah, best show ever, you know.
All right. Next
Go
up.
ahead, Leary.
This is a point about the dub. I want to praise the dub a little bit because firstly, this is a bad dub. Okay, it's not a good dub at all. I don't. Like,
Yeah,
I
it
would
was
never
pretty
recommend
bad.
anyone watch this. However, there is one thing that the dub does really well, which is the distinction between like the shy, like not talking Lane, and then like the Lane inside the wired. They feel like the same person, but
Doesn't
also
she sound like
incredibly
a
different.
40-year-old woman?
In the
Both times, though?
I think that when she's like the kid, I buy it as a kid. When she's like in the wired or whatever, I like I can kind of see it as like an older version of Lane, which I think is like kind of the point because she is kind of treated that way in the wired a bit differently. I like it. The voice acting is good, I think. And it really was like jarring to see the difference in the two performances, even though it's like the same voice. So I like that. You know, give the bad dub its credits, I guess. But yeah. But I guess more like production wise, what do you guys think the budget of the show is? I feel like it was very low budget.
People, yeah,
my
people
guess.
say that a lot. They're like, it's the best low budget looking thing you've ever seen.
I think
But
there's
I
a
don't know
lot
anything, I
of
don't know.
moments where I was really impressed with the character animation.
Okay.
Very expressive, very fluid. So I don't feel like it was a cheap production. But obviously the character designs are kept very simple. The art style is very I don't know, like the detail is definitely more in the backgrounds than the actual characters. So I feel like it's probably easier to animate more expressively because of that.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't think cheap, but probably not a
So
super high budget either.
There's stuff that I'm like, okay, if I saw this as a modern anime, I'd be like, yeah, that was easy to make. But like back then, I don't know the potential. Like how for that filter over the real life footage of the guy like walking, like when he was walking around doing that IRL, is that easy thing to do or a hard thing to do? Was it easy for them to make like a video game replica for this thing? I don't know. Like it might have been really hard because I mean nowadays you can just make it probably like in a day in Unreal and
That is
get
true.
decent footage for it. But like I don't know back then, like that's a lot. Like yeah, like when they say I don't know what they mean by budget exactly. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of crazy animation, and they do reuse the animation in the beginning of the last episode, which did seem like the most complex stuff, where it was like the god guy getting squashed and amalgamating and basically doing his best Akira impression. Not that Ari would know.
Of course.
But
I've seen 20 minutes of that movie.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Actually, to be fair, that was actually very Akira-esque. That like transformation there. I'm gonna call it out. We're not everything's based off Evangelion. Akira was pretty impactful.
It's all based off Devilman, of course. Come on now, Josh.
Did you not see the bike that she was on, that she slid on? Which was
who slid on a bike?
What's the thing?
The
Lane,
sister.
yeah. And the sister, yeah.
I'll be honest, I
And
remember
the
a single
delivery man.
bike in this thing. Oh, the delivery man. He
I
had a
think
bike,
he's
didn't
fucking
he?
with you, EliteAri.
Oh, he did? Wait. Okay, I don't remember. I have no idea what you guys are talking about right now. But you know what? I'm sure there was a
It's like
bike.
making
there
fun
wasn't
of
a
you
bike,
watching
or-
that video, being like, "Oh, this clearly isn't a homage to the Akira slide." Meh.
Well, it clearly
That's
wasn't.
true.
Yeah.
EliteAri said that.
It clearly isn't. Some of them are, some aren't. It depends how many aspects of the original scene are in it, right?
Yeah, it's like the most famous movie of all time. Kanye West made a whole music video about it. He's a famous guy.
And therefore,
so
everything
you're
that
wrong,
kind of looks
EliteAri.
like it is obviously a reference, right? My goodness.
It just shows its
Your logic
extent in
betrays you,
pop
but that's
culture,
okay.
Even over,
No. Ari,
United
did you not just
States, you know?
watch Serial Experiments Lain, where it's the cultural unconscious? So even if they didn't mean
That
to,
is
they
true.
were referencing.
That's a good point, I
Everybody's
guess,
seen
yeah.
it.
it's easy
We've
to
all
defeat
seen
this
Lane
guy.
before.
We
Yeah.
have now. We have at least, except for Jockey Bacon. He saw 200% of it. So
Yeah,
that's
I
even
saw
more.
more of it.
You're an expert.
Yeah. I watched it how it was
Well,
intended to be watched.
It's
'Cause
true.
it was
It's
intended
wacky.
for this TikTok
It's
generation.
experimental bacon, and you experimented with it. So how are we?
Exactly.
How are we to judge? Who are we to judge? What's going on here?
Amen.
Was that the extent of your notes?
I have
Larry? Do you
one
more?
final thing, which is an indictment on Lane's character. Okay, not as terms of like, oh, how much I enjoyed it, but just like, oh, like she's like a really annoying person
Morally?
sometimes. And it's probably not her fault. It's just like who she is. One is that a lot of the times it frustrates me so greatly. Characters will say something to her and like cut off before they say it, and she won't ask what they were gonna say. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like please, like they'll be like, oh Lane, oh no, that couldn't have been you, and she doesn't go like, oh what do you mean, what happened, what happened, tell me. And I'm like, oh Lane just doesn't communicate in that way, and that's who she is or whatever. It just bothers me. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so annoying. Like I want to know as the audience, like what were the characters just about to say? I guess in this portrayal,
Literally
yeah, I guess
autistic people.
in this portrayal of if you are saying this is autism, yes, it did bother me in this portrayal of the character, yeah. But yeah, and then the second,
unbelievable.
yeah, the second thing about Lane is, I guess this isn't an indictment in any way, but it's kind of interesting. Did anyone else read the stuff with her and Alice at the end, being like, Lane is kind of stalking Alice in a way, where it's like she's kind of, because Alice was the one person who was nice to her. Lane has kind of
Didn't
done
you
all
not
these...
think it was Alice?
Huh? Wait, what?
Didn't you say that you thought it was the sister earlier?
Wait, what are you talking about? When? I know you're talking about the final scene. Oh no, I don't care. I don't know about the final scene. I didn't even think about that. I mean just throughout this entire last like few episodes where Alice is like, everyone doesn't remember except for Alice, and Alice is the one who has like the remaining memories because Lane like picked her out or whatever. And he kind of felt like Alice didn't want any of that. But from Lane's perspective, it's like, I mean, maybe this is like the most obvious reading in the world, but it's like from Lane's perspective, because Alice was so important to her, she's like making Alice suffer because of it, and she doesn't realize it. And I was like, oh, this is like sad. I feel bad for Alice in this scene, or like in all these scenes at the end there. But yeah, Lane's a bad person.
I mean, if you said it out like that, it sounds like it. But it was just she was in love.
Yeah, I think part of it too is that like she was making these decisions because like obviously the wired version of her was hurting Alice, so she was actively doing what she was doing to try to fix that. So obviously she's gonna want to keep following Alice and know like that she's not hurting anymore. But she also kind of has the personal like, I also just like being her friend, so she's trying to have both, and she kind of can't.
Yeah, interesting. All right.
Well, Leader, you're doing a bad job, you idiot.
Thank you.
Check your goddamn messages next.
No, are we done? You could do the outro. I don't know what else we're going to talk about. Anyone got notes? I don't know how to fill in space. For reference, Kyle's disappeared. He's coming back. I don't know what to say. Bacon, go ahead, say something.
I'm for real back.
Help me
Don't
to breathe,
worry.
man. Jeez.
Okay.
He did it again. He's a genius. Do one from the ED, Bacon. Go ahead. Do you speak Japanese?
I actually skip the ED every single time.
It's the greatest ED of all time.
I just remember being a slow pan out from a naked girl, so I was like, I'm good.
But you got to listen to the voice, Jockey Bacon. You got to listen to the voice.
I'm good.
Well, that was all my notes. So if nobody else has anything to say, we can wrap this thing up.
Lane was good.
It was the best. Top 5 anime of all time.
Actually, Kyle, is it still in your top 5?
I almost certainly, yeah, because Steins Gate ain't in there until we rewatch it, Jockey Bacon. But Naruto Shippuden is definitely in there.
You've got
the rest of it's probably the same.
No, you've got that other one, the pink-haired girl that you keep on like.
Diebuster is in for shitty Cowboy Bebop, of course. We love the great Diebuster.
The Cowboy Bebop's still up there.
I actually love Diebuster. I think about Diebuster way more often than I.
No, you said you hated it, Mia.
I know. That's why. No, that's why it's kind of crazy that changed.
EliteAri said, I didn't even remember it, even though I watched it yesterday. My goodness, the whole discussion.
That is
unbelievable. True. We're doing another one. That's going to be our next thing. Bacon, you're not going to like Diebuster. Don't watch it. Now, so yes, I guess that's the top 5. We got Neon Genesis Evangelion, Black Lagoon, Naruto Shippuden, Serial Experiments Lain, and Die Buster. What an eclectic young man I am. True.
Well done.
That's right.
Your turn, Bacon. Top 5. Go ahead.
My top 5 anime. Let me go to my anime list. I've just watched so many that I can't remember. All right. So my anime list.
Well, EliteAri, give yours in the meantime, since we're doing this apparently.
Let's see. Heavenly Delusion, Hunter x Hunter, Mob Psycho 100, Steins Gate 0, and then
That's actually hilarious. So
I don't know, one other
so
something else I'm forgetting, I'm sure, but
Not a single good anime in there. Can you believe it? You like Gunbuster, EliteAri? Is that going to be number 5?
absolutely not. But I really did like Gunbuster. That is definitely a 5 out of 5.
Goodness,
Okay.
EliteAri's got so many anime he loves.
Yep.
Ooh, there are a
Well,
lot
he's
of good
taking so
ones.
long.
So my
Yeah, you're
one,
up
I've
next.
got Full Metal Alchemist
hold on.
Brotherhood, Cowboy Bebop, Spirited Away, and then I've got also Porco Rosso, and then My Neighbor Totoro. But those aren't really anime, so I'll take those ones
Shitty
out.
wow.
anime movies.
Steins Gate,
Shitty Studio Ghibli.
Silent Voice, which is not really anime. Vinland Saga Season 2, then Witch Hat. Yeah, I feel like I need to reorganize this better because it's just... Yeah, but Heavenly Delusion was a good one.
Yep.
Which
Not a good anime in there.
I actually put Plan Test pretty high. Roberta's Blood Trail,
Oh,
that was pretty good.
That was really
Yeah,
good.
that's an anime. That's an anime.
Death Parade.
Maybe we
that
do
was
have to
pretty
go
good.
back and talk about the Planet Test anime because I did not like it.
It was vibes. That's literally it. I mean, it wasn't as good as
I
the
guess it
manga,
had
but
some
yeah,
vibes.
it was vibes. It had an awful ending compared to the...
So
yeah.
terrible. I was so mad.
Don't forget about Wheelchair. That was the funniest reveal, actually. That was
I
hilarious.
was so mad. I was so mad. I was laughing at how bad it was.
Yeah, it was quite funny.
Read the manga.
Yeah, I need to relook at it. But like, Violet Evergarden, that's good. Dora Horodoro, that's good. There's lots of good ones.
This is a good
I
top
think it's
5.
also like yeah, it's a pretty conclusive top 5.
All right, Mia, go ahead.
He does 2 times
I
the top
mean,
5. Crazy.
Sure.
Little niche series, Vinland Saga, so true. I guess
Not
like,
the anime, surely.
the rest of it is probably very based on what I watched when I was a kid. So definitely Full Metal and Death Note.
Nice.
That's like very
I'm gonna
normie
kill
answers.
Is this 03?
Does Attack on Titan make it? I don't know.
Yes. Oh, I feel about Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan.
What a
good.
terrible anime. Disgusting.
I feel like it would be
absolutely
like
garbage.
6. I don't know. JoJo is there. Maybe One Piece makes it.
Mia, you're not on my anime list.
I'm not. I guess I probably should be. I don't keep enough track. I only started really keeping track of this stuff.
Where's the media
More
checklist,
recently.
Mia? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
How am I supposed to
exactly.
know if you finished Serial Experiments Lain?
I literally do that.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. I probably
You
liked things
commented on it
before.
before.
Hey, just ignore me. Sometimes I do respond to an abnormal amount of Mia tweets with just the Die Buster opening GIF. So I've infiltrated. That's why.
And every time I do, I'm like, so
Ari,
true.
what do you say was one of your favorite anime?
The Great Heavenly Delusion, recommended by Jockey Bacon.
You didn't say Anohana, did you?
Oh, that's the one. That would be the 5th one.
He
I
loves
forgot
that
about
one.
That. Yeah.
There you go. See,
there we go.
see. What about Slime?
Oh, Gurren Lagann.
Slime would maybe be 5, but like in the 5, but it's also, you know.
Look Back.
What about
That's a
Shitty
movie. That's like a
movie,
40-minute
but
movie. It doesn't even. Yeah.
That is the best thing.
What about the Berserk anime?
That's like a
Blue.
9 out of 10. Then these are like.
I mean,
now
it
we're
is
getting
literally
lower.
on your 9 out of 10 on your my anime list.
Oh,
which
there
I'm
we
looking
go.
at right
Yep.
now.
I'm consistent.
Dungeon Meshi was good last year. They
Are
haven't
we
covered
gonna end this
this
fucking
stuff,
video?
Nope.
Mhm.
I gotta piss.
Chainsaw Man is the best
I
manga.
can't be-
All right, there we go. Easy.
Embarrassing. Why would you ever say such a thing? Part 1's a
Guys,
10 out of 10, though. We love that.
Jujutsu Kaisen, guys.
Yeah, when's the next episode coming out, boys? You know,
Any day
we've
now.
been waiting, us fans.
Yeah, whenever Ari finally reads it, geez, he's taking his time.
Sure.
Embarrassing. You read all of Mushoku Tensei in the interim. It's
I know, we
couldn't
got
be
one
me. That's all
more
I'm saying.
book to read for that.
Yeah, but that's because Mushoku Tensei is actually good.
That is true.
I don't believe you. Well, everybody, this has
Fire
been...
Punch. All right, I'm done. I'm done.
the Great Fire Punch, the greatest manga of all time, of course. You can watch our Great Fire Punch discussions on this very channel. All you got to do is scroll back like a few months, maybe a bit more. I don't remember. Anyway, we don't know.
Peak. All right, now I'm done.
My goodness. Just naming animes and mangas left and right here. Who knows what we're doing next? We haven't decided. We might decide soon. You know, I don't know. I'll leak it on a stream one time. But until then, we'll see everybody next time, right? So, EliteAri, what do we say at the end of these things?
Bye-bye.
That's not what we say. Jockey Bacon, hit him with the outro.
Links in the description.
Below, thanks!
Bye.